This is James Arnold Taylor, voice of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Welcome to a more civilized podcast. This is the podcast you're looking for. You may not go about your business. Stay here, listen, and then move along.
Welcome, listeners, to the show that never ends, a more civilized podcast. And if you got that reference, I applaud you.
I didn't.
Did any of you get that? The show, welcome, my friends, to the show that never ends.
I got it.
No.
I have no idea what that means.
That's Lamb Chop.
That's the song that never ends.
Oh yeah, you're right.
News Radio.
Oh.
Jimmy James.
You were the only one that watched News
It's
Radio.
so good. I know, that's
Literally
why I
no
try
one
to convince
else
people to
watched
watch it,
News
because it's
Radio.
amazing. It's The Office before The Office.
Hey, we have a
It's so
podcast to
good.
do.
I know, sorry. As usual, I'm Kyler.
I'm Chris.
I'm Ross.
And we have in our studio today two very special guests. I'm so
Studio.
excited. In the hangar bay. Because like Bacon Seal does the Bacon Cave, so I'm like, we could do, I don't know.
We don't have to do everything Bacon said.
No, I know, but it was just funny. It just popped in the head. Anyway.
Just so the rest of you know, we're crammed in my little office.
Yep, we
in our
sure
new
are.
house.
We should have switched Chris and his sister, because then Chris could sit on my lap and I'd be more happy. So, next time.
My wife would be discomforted.
Anyway, I already mentioned
guests.
her. We have guests.
Yes.
Chris.
This is my sister Kate.
Yep.
Hi.
She's delightful. I have an awkward memory of her, but that's okay. We'll save that for later.
Please don't. And I don't mean tell that sooner. I mean don't tell it at all.
That's all I want to know right now. Literally 100%. That's all I
And
care
across
about.
the table from her, we have Kelsey, who you may remember from our live episode.
Uh-huh.
Hello. I was the one with the voice at the beginning.
Who
of that
probably...
episode.
You
And
probably
both,
could have won the trivia. I feel like you knew more of the answers. You just weren't fast enough on the draw.
Well, that and I know nothing about ships, though. I don't know
Except
ship
these
But you knew the
ships,
podcast
which you know lots
questions.
about.
And so when Steven left the board on that one, I was like, you can have it, pal. I don't know a thing about
Nobody
these.
knows details about Star Wars ships but Kyler and Steven. So.
That is true. So, Ross, we've got some news to get through.
All right.
No.
What kind of news?
It's just news.
Nope.
What
The
kind of
news.
news?
In fact, actually,
Chelsea, no,
I mean, I feel
Chelsea,
like some of
don't.
this isn't even actually news, so really, it's
I will
really
endorse
not.
that statement.
No, Kelsey, stop.
ever.
Stop. Don't encourage him.
It's
Where's
it's
a water
the
bottle? I'm
best.
going to squirt you like a cat. Just no.
With the mics
Yeah,
around.
not in front of the mic. Anyway. So yes, the newsy news. Thank you, Kelsey. The newsiest news to ever news. The news.
We've got to get him to stop that.
I'd
All
say
right.
we'll do an episode without him just so we can cut that at some point, but then we'd have to set all this up ourselves, and that's not
And
gonna
edit
happen.
it, and I don't know how, and dang it.
Good
He'd
luck getting it
literally
set up.
just record it and stick it in after.
That's what happens when you have unlimited power.
That's right, you guys. All right, so actually on to the news. This just in, everyone. The Onion is
A
reporting.
trusted news source.
That's right, the world's the best news source. Is reporting that an ignorant man who has learned nothing from history is excited about Jedi Fallen Order. You know what? I have
taking
opinions.
this a little personal.
I am.
So
I
let's
am.
just insert Ross's name into this article,
Hey.
and then I'm going to read it. Okay,
Hey.
it's not very long.
Hey.
Looks like someone hasn't been paying attention. Ross Hansen, a deeply ignorant man who has apparently learned nothing from history, told friends this week that he's excited about the upcoming Electronic Arts title, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Oh man, the gameplay trailer actually makes it look really cool, said the 33-year-old?
Close enough.
32 for another couple days.
Yeah.
No, but by the time this hits...
Oh yeah, by the time this airs.
33-year-old
Happy birthday.
Utah resident and woefully mistaken individual who betrayed a willful disregard for the ever-repeating patterns of the past as he noted that Fallen Order almost looked like playing an interactive Star Wars movie. It's definitely interesting that they're setting the story after Revenge of the Sith, which is still pretty fertile territory to explore. Plus, it seems like they're being faithful to the source material based on the stuff I watched showing Saw Gerrera. Honestly, I might even pick it up on launch day, said the profoundly foolish man, seeming to cast aside decades of painfully gained knowledge from time's passage as he sought out an additional teaser trailer. Excitedly scrolling through an in-depth preview of the action-adventure title, the deeply, deeply naive man went on to express optimism for the game's mechanics that he described as Uncharted meets God of War, in a manner that revealed him to have discarded each and every hard-won lesson from the past the past might have taught him through the release of such titles as The Force Unleashed 2, Battlefront 2, The Clone Wars, Star Wars Demolition, Kinect Star Wars Obi-Wan, Jedi Power Battles, Jedi Starfighter, and Star Wars Bounty Hunter. Ever a prisoner to history's cyclical cruelties, Hansen was last seen browsing the EA homepage to look into what additional content was included if he pre-orders the Fallen Order Deluxe Edition.
And or buys the loot boxes, I'm sure.
I need some barbecue sauce for that roast. Good gracious.
Surprise
So
package
funny.
for us. Surprise
That's
package.
surprise
But
boxes.
what's so
that's right.
great, though, is like this art, like all good satire, which The Onion definitely is. It's like, I have seen people saying these very same things, and it's like, do you guys not realize it's still EA making this? You're going to get screwed. Somehow, some way. Just, it's not the be anyway, it was just dang funny, and I wanted to read it.
Anyway, on to real news.
Now to the real news.
I feel like I need a defense for just a second. Because while I'm optimistic about the game, that was just uncalled for. Please note that the opinions of a More Civilized Podcast are not necessarily those of all the rest of us on the More Civilized Podcast. He says with a glare.
I thought you were about to say, please note that this is not an official opinion of a More Civilized Podcast, and I was going to be like, whoa there, let's take a vote.
Yep.
Wait,
Yep.
what,
Oh, it
Looks
is.
like it
This
is
is
an
the
official
official opinion.
what is the opinion?
That you're foolish for
That
being
you're foolish.
You're foolish for thinking that might turn out well.
Yep.
It might be okay.
It
It's
is.
fine.
So the official stance of this podcast is that Ross Hansen is a deeply, deeply ignorant man.
No. The official stance of this podcast is that if you are looking forward to anything from EA, cast aside all hope.
Yes.
Well, what's the sign? Woe to all those who enter here. Or
Yeah,
something?
abandon hope, ye who enter
Yes,
here.
that's
Yes.
the one. Okay.
Dante's Inferno, the entrance to hell.
Enough about that. So Variety is reporting about that Lucasfilm has hired a new producer for The Rise of Skywalker.
Really?
No, more than that, though.
Yeah. So, well, go ahead, Russ.
Well, that's
Because
the
she
thing
is that.
Is I don't know anything about her.
So she is a
so-
new. Her name is Michelle Rejwan.
Rizwan, probably.
Rejwan.
I believe that she is of a separate clan from the Obi-Wans.
Yes, yeah, the Rejwans. Yeah, exactly. She is the new senior VP of Lucasfilm. She was also the producer for Force Awakens and is also the producer for Rise of Skywalker.
The article that I found this on originally, and which I linked to, and then Kylo didn't use here for some reason.
Oh,
It's all good. It's all. It basically said, "This is the Kevin Feige for Lucasfilm." Like,
yeah.
Kevin Feige has been directing everything, overseeing everything for Marvel, and that's basically what her job is going to be for Lucas.
So in other
Because
words,
to date, Lucasfilm has been lacking in having one person release.
Yeah, a consistent.
Yeah, because
sort
like
of
Kathleen
vision.
Kennedy is in charge, but she's got so much
But
of
she's
the business.
yeah, she's got a lot of
and
hands
she has
off.
taken a very hands-off approach to it.
Yeah.
So this is basically Michelle Rejwan gets the job of going, okay, let's make a plan.
But
Which
Kathleen
is-
Kennedy is still staying.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
she's
okay.
still
She's
like
not getting
she's
fired.
still
Yeah,
the
makes
the
sense.
CEO or whatever.
Yeah,
still a
she's
step
still
above.
president.
Yeah, this
Michelle
is just a
Rejwan is
senior
a vice
VP.
president.
No, this makes me sad though because they should have, if they were going to give it to anybody for a consistent vision of Star Wars, it should be Dave Filoni.
I'm several seasons into Clone Wars, and I do agree with you.
Christopher Baxter.
Like, he's not bad, certainly. I trust him with plenty of things, but not overseeing
Which
everything.
season
for
of
sure.
Clone Wars are you on right now?
I think I'm into the 3rd season now.
Oh, okay. Well, it gets better after like season 4.
Okay,
So-
but that includes Obi-Wan and Satine. That includes a whole lot of stuff.
Oh, okay.
that
We're
I've
gonna have
heard
to save
really
that
good
for a
things
different
about,
show.
But
yeah,
anyway,
there's more Obi-Wan and Satine later, if I remember right.
Yeah,
Anyway,
season 5. Yeah, that's their really good stuff. Is season 5.
yeah.
We'll see.
So, and my last point on this is, so now what needs to happen is that we need to get Pablo Hidalgo to create a massive trivia test for her to see if she can do justice
Yeah.
to our
be
precious
down with
little
that.
franchise.
yeah, I'm not actually a fan of the whole true fanning sort of thing. It's like, no. You get the job, you can do the job.
All
I
right.
agree.
It's definitely gray territory to take any woman who gets a job in this and go, well, you have to prove that you're really a fan. Like, no, let's not do that.
I would do that to anybody, but
I am aware.
Still.
I'm not trying to accuse you of sexism, but I am saying it does look kind of sketchy.
I, however, would be in favor of Pablo Hidalgo creating some master list trivia thing, just because I would want that.
That's fair.
Okay, next on the list. Ross,
next
what do
we
got?
have confirmation. Well, and it's not even actually confirmation from what I've seen. But no, it's really not. Believe me.
I read the quote.
So we have a interview with Mark Hamill. I believe it was like a red carpet event for another movie that he's in currently, where he talked a little bit about Star Wars and his involvement in The Rise of Skywalker. And he does talk about how the lore does allow for old Jedi to come back with the Force ghosts, and how he was grateful to be a part of I don't remember the exact quote, but grateful to be part of that and still have the opportunity to come in and work. So everyone's taking this as like, yeah, he's for sure a Force ghost. That's not what he said, though.
Here's what he actually said, Ross. He was asked if this would be his, like if Rise of Skywalker would be his final appearance in the franchise, and he said, quote, "I sure hope so. Well, because I had closure in it," referring to The Last Jedi. "The fact that I'm involved in any capacity is only because of that peculiar aspect of the Star Wars mythology, where if you're a Jedi, you get to come back and make a curtain call as a Force ghost." That to me seems pretty clear.
That is a pretty clear cut. I'm coming back as a Force ghost. However, keep in mind that this is coming from Mark
the Master Troll.
Hamill. Yeah. And frankly, anything that comes from Mark Hamill or J.J. Abrams should always be suspect.
Yeah.
Mark has figured out how to just twist the internet around his little finger and
Oh, yeah.
fool everyone.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm thinking that I don't think this is clear-cut evidence he's going to be a Force ghost. I think he's just implying, oh, I like that idea about Jedi, that they can come back. But I don't know. Maybe he'll come back and smack Kylo
Well, I mean, what
across
he's
the
saying
face.
here is the only reason I can come back is because there are Force ghosts in Star Wars.
Yeah.
Like, that's pretty clear.
Yeah.
Although I would love him just to come back and then just like punch Kylo in the face and just be like, that was for trying to kill me.
And finally, we have your little bit of
hilarious.
lighthearted Star
It's
Wars
so cute.
awesomeness. Which we're just going to have to post this on the Facebook
Yes.
group.
Yeah, I'll link to
So,
it in the live
yeah.
notes. Too.
It is a seal that is, quote unquote, singing the Star Wars opening theme.
It's awesome and so cute.
Please go take a look at that.
It does a
and
better
we'll get it
job with
posted.
Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, but you can hear the Star Wars if you're like, that's what they were trying to teach it. And so if you know that and then listen to it, it's like, okay, I can see that the seal is trying. It's adorable. It's a seal singing Star Wars, people. What do you want from me? Back off. Ugh.
And that's the news.
Okay.
Okay.
Such as it is.
Yeah. All right. Now on to the meat of this episode. So, we brought Kate and Kelsey on because these two ladies are pretty passionate about passion. No, just kidding. About ships in Star Wars. No, not the Millennium Falcon. We mean relationships. So we're going to primarily be talking about Reylo, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
And then sprinkling other things throughout. And Kate and Kelsey are going to lead the discussion while Chris and Ross and I sit back and, form the peanut gallery
I'm
of
just gonna take a
snarky
nap.
comments.
We're
Yeah. Honestly, from what they were saying before the show, I think we could probably just leave and let them just go for a while. So without, unless anybody has anything else, you two know
I have
we're good to
another
go.
order of watching.
No, stop it, Chris. No. No. I'm sure you do, but no. We're stopping that.
Came up with it midway through the week.
No.
Post it on the Facebook page.
Oh,
We'll just have
boy.
a running chat on the Facebook page of the order to watch Star Wars.
There's
All
only
right.
one order to watch Star Wars.
Kate, we're going to turn the time over to you, as they say.
Now, and actually, just so everyone understands what's going on here,
Yeah.
Kate has a whole PowerPoint on her tablet.
A how
here in
long
front of us.
PowerPoint?
This would be, besides the title card, 23 slides.
Nice. And then, how many
And
pages
Kelsey
did you
had
have?
like a whole buttload of...
I have 3 pages roughly of a Word document of notes, and they're just notes and things that I want to talk about.
Yeah.
And so, Kate,
So in other words, everyone,
Yeah.
buckle up.
And what we're trying to say is this is the most prepared anyone has ever been on this show, including any of the three of us.
I'm not gonna lie, I kind of want to take Kate's PowerPoint and just take all the text out of it and drop it in a Word doc so I can see if it is longer than my notes for the Rogue One episode. Those are pretty extensive.
Okay, well, let's go ahead. Kate, take it away.
Okay, so I've divided this PowerPoint into 3 perspectives, which are the Reylo perspective, as in the religious Reylo perspective, which is Reylo is absolutely happening and here's why. Then there's the anti-Reylo, or the atheist perspective, which is Reylo absolutely cannot happen and here's why. And then the third perspective, which is Reylo agnostic. Reylo may or may not be happening and here is why.
I anticipate I'm going to flip-flop like a fish on this episode after each time she gives some evidence. I'll be like, oh, that's right. I changed my mind.
So we know where these two are. Reylo's definitely going to happen, right?
Yes.
I love Reylo, but I am technically agnostic. I am not certain that it'll happen.
Okay. That's where I am. Kyler?
I am a little bit between the atheist and agnostic. I'm not certain that it will happen. I kind of don't want it to happen, but if it happens, oh well.
Okay, and then Chris, what are your thoughts?
Like, it could happen, it could not.
So the agnostic.
As long as it's done well, I don't care.
Okay.
I just want to break it down for our wonderful listeners. For those of you who have no idea what we're talking about, Reylo is the ship name for Rey and Kylo Ren from the sequel movies.
Good to explain that. I just kind of assumed that they don't live on, like Octu, so they would know.
Good reference.
I'm assuming our listeners don't live under a rock, but there are some who may not be as invested in
that's
the
fair.
ships of the movies. And so we will give you all of the characters that we are going to talk about who either are or are not a couple, and we will give you their ship name as well as the real names of their characters. So Reylo is Kylo and Rey's Hollywood ship name.
Yes. All right.
Okay.
We're starting out Force Awakens, the meeting on Takodana from the religious perspective. I wrote, they meet, she tries to shoot him, but that's to be expected. Look at him, he's a mess. He gives her this really obvious up-down look, obvious enough that you can see him do it even while he's wearing the stupid helmet. Unnecessary bridal carry? Sure, let the stormtroopers drag Poe, but Rey, absolutely not. Rey's a princess.
To go along with Poe, though, he interrogates Poe with...
Yeah.
He's using pain.
We get into that later. In the interrogation
later? Okay.
Yeah, give me a moment.
Nah, you good.
So he's so feckin' distracted by Rey, he completely ditches BB-8. And then Hux calls him out on it later in front of Snoke, but he doesn't have the dumb helmet on to hide his very obvious embarrassment. Whoops.
To be fair, I have also been thoroughly distracted by attractive ladies in my time. I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
Right?
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Fair enough.
Remember that time? In
To be
junior
fair,
high
I
where
have also
went
been
to a
really
hole?
distracted by thinking I achieved what I was after and then discovering that nope, I didn't.
Yes.
Whoops.
Here we go. Oh, also, I have this little fun fact for the religious Reylos. Apparently, the unnecessary bridal carry was so dang iconic, Lucasfilm commissioned artist Eric Mail to paint it for the Star Wars celebration in Europe back in 2016. If you would like to Google this image, it is called Rey's Abduction. And I'm pretty sure you'll see this painted on the side of a van one day.
Because they can't call it the rape of the Jakku women anymore. Like the rape of the Sabine women,
This looks like a romance novel cover.
It kind of does, actually.
No,
Wow.
it's pretty amazing. I have the image and I wrote, somebody queue up, I want to know what love is, because he literally looks like he's in a Rocker's Power stance. It's unbelievable. Let's see. Oh, right. The meeting on Takodana from the atheist perspective. Well, let's see. First she tries to feckin' kill him. He force paralyzes her body. Scary. He force probes her mind. Also scary. Then he force feeds her because she has information about the map, and he carries her away because he's in close proximity, and she's not official rebel scum like Poe yet. Kylo is interested in Rey because she has seen the map. Had she not seen the map, he would have never bothered with her. And then I've got the picture of Rey and him meeting, and she just says, "Are you gonna kill me?" And he says, "Only if I find your lack of faith disturbing." Alright, meeting on Takodana. Agnostic. Rey tries to shoot Kylo because she is scared of the First Order. Literally an hour before this, Finn told her just how terrified she should be, so of course she is. In the novel, Kylo actually asks Rey, "You would kill me, knowing nothing about me," after she tries to shoot him. Kylo is essentially a convert to the dark side of the Force. He sees Rey as a semblance of his old self, naive, in need of re-education. He tells her simple ignorances are easily remedied. He also says, "Something," he sounded mystified. "There is something. Who are you?" Kylo immediately senses the Force in Rey, but he doesn't fully understand what it is. As soon as they meet, he isn't just interested in Rey for the information she has. He knows there's something else going on. This is why he takes a particular interest in her. Does that sound fair?
Sure.
Yeah.
You got that down.
See, and that's the thing is I've seen this movie several times, but there are, now that you mentioned a lot of these little nuances of the of the interaction. I am surprised at what I missed.
And I
going through
noticed, like, some of it, I mean, it's obviously hard to miss, like, the bridal carry, you know.
Yeah.
And it is hard to miss the whole mind probing versus, like, more traditional interrogation, like, I'm gonna rough you up kind of a thing, you know.
Well, and I'm gonna go back and have to verify the whole up-down look that you're saying that he did.
Oh, yeah, I
No,
don't
he
remember
doesn't.
that.
It's so obvious. It's all.
and they
it's
do
really
it to
funny.
each other. They do it to each other throughout all of Force Awakens and Last Jedi. They are constantly checking each other out, and I like may or may not have gone through and like pinpointed every
Devil's
time.
advocate here. Are they checking each other out, or is it more of like I'm
Sizing
assessing
you
my
up?
enemy? Like, what are you armed with? Like, you know.
To quote The Road of El Dorado. The Road to El Dorado. Both is good.
Yes. Good
All right.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that in Solo, Han gives Chewie an up down when he first sees him in that prison. And I'm pretty sure there's nothing even mostly not sexual about it. They do take a shower.
They do take a shower.
Oh yeah, up-down looks can mean a variety of things.
They can.
But obviously, you know, we're going to read into this as shippers.
Well, see, but
for
that's
certain
what I'm going
moments.
when I discussed this with Kelsey at the party after we stopped recording. This was the point I always kept coming back to was you can read a lot of things into a lot of expressions, like and so an up down look is one of those where I'm like, I'm pretty sure that just about everyone I meet, I give them an up down. That's just how I take people in. We'll go with 85% of the time, nothing sexual at all.
Or that's just
Tyler.
Chris's cover
You
story.
know it.
I mean,
That's just you meet someone and you're like, okay, let me take you
You have
in.
to up down a person to. That's just like basic human
It's
instinct.
taking them in. Yeah, and he is meeting her for the first time. So we're definitely, like I said, I am an agnostic. I noticed that he does it and it makes me laugh. You know, when I'm looking at it from the religious perspective, it's like a humorous perspective where I think it's really funny that he does this. I mean, if that is the intention, but I don't actually expect it to be necessarily.
And this is kind of also where I'm coming from the, as you put it, the agnostic perspective of just going, you know, as he's giving her the up down, just being like, this is what we're after.
Yes.
You know, like sort of just that kind of sneering, like, you know, looking down his nose at her, kind of like, oh, you're some desert rat.
I always like to bring up the bottle episode of Community here, where they're all stuck in the room trying to figure out who stole the pen, and I think it's Annie is just like, well, it's Britta's just like, well, what's going on with you and Annie? And they have this montage of them looking at each other set to slow romantic music and all these glances that they've gleaned from different parts of the episode, and then what's his name?
Abed?
Joel.
Oh,
the main character.
Jeff,
there we go. Thank you. And then Jeff is like, oh, please, you can do that with anyone. You could do that with Pearson Troy.
Yeah,
and then it has the exact same thing, this montage of clips from the show set to slow romantic music of them looking at each other meaningfully. And it works perfectly because you can do this with anything if you decide you want to find it in their expressions.
Have you seen that video of I don't remember the commander's name on Jedi when Darth Vader lands in the beginning of the movie?
George
and it
Ross.
talks about how music can change everything as Darth Vader's walking off the ship. It plays the I know this love is true.
It's a great video.
It sounds amazing.
That's an even better. That's a topical example.
Yeah. It's a good example of what you're talking about, Chris.
Okay.
Yep.
So here's something, since I've done so much digging on this subject, here is a weird thing I found, and I'm taking it with the agnostic grain of salt, right? Okay? But I found people pointing out that early on in the junior novel, Rey states that she's been hearing a voice in her dreams, presumably through the Force, all her life. It says, as always, there was no figure to the voice. She'd been haunted by a dream or a nightmare. At this point in her life, she couldn't decide what it was. Later on in the adult novel, when Rey first sees Kylo Ren emerge from the ship, she describes him the same way. A stunned Rey could only track him with her eyes. She had seen this man before, in a daydream, in a nightmare. It's likely just a coincidence, since the passage is found between two separate novelizations, and more importantly, they're written by two separate authors who may or may not have collaborated between the works. Michael Cogg, I believe it's pronounced, is the junior novelist, and Alan Dean Foster is the adult novelist, but technically speaking, both are canon, so maybe it's worth noting, maybe not, I don't know. I threw it in here just because I thought it was interesting.
Because when these authors are going through plot points and stuff for their books, they do have to get it approved by the Lucasfilm Story Group so that there's one consistent narrative throughout all media. Comic books, novels, TV shows, movies.
When were these released in relation to each other? How far apart, do you know?
I don't. Couldn't tell you.
Because it could be something far enough apart that they just didn't realize.
Yeah, that somebody saw the idea and was like, I'm going to include that, I like it.
If these are the novelizations of the movie, it's the junior novelization and
The junior and the adult novelization.
those would have been released at about the same time.
Yeah, so
Pretty close, at least.
that to me says that somebody maybe got the idea approved or whatever, and they're like, sure, that's canon, that can happen before... before
Or
Force
it's
takes
just a
place
phrase
or
like,
whatever.
Yeah, it's just an arbitrary
having
thing.
written plenty of
Yeah.
stories in my day, there's a lot of words, and the amount of attention that you can pay to every little phrase, especially when you're an editor coming on, it's not even your project, things get missed. Like,
Yeah.
that could easily be a coincidence.
I would definitely agree with that. In this case, I just thought it was interesting, so I threw it in there.
It is.
All right, now moving on to the interrogation scene from the religious perspective. So in the book, he removes her bonds and tells her he prefers to be honest with her, seemingly interested in winning her trust. I mean, it doesn't work, but I can try. When she calls him a creature in a mask, he takes off his helmet. So she'll realize that by creature, she really meant sexy beast. And one that never gets helmet hair, apparently.
I was going to say, you do look at that hair, though. I mean, come on.
Fact about Adam Driver, I believed he used cinnamon and what was the other? It was an herb or something.
For his hair?
Yeah, no. He made his own little conditioner cocktail and used it in his hair for months to get his hair to grow
To be perfect and
really
luscious and
luscious
beautiful.
and full.
Amazing.
Oh my
I had
gosh.
never
But see,
heard that
Kylo
before.
Ren was just diverting a portion of his force powers and attention to keeping his hair.
I mean, understandably.
Right?
Honestly, I feel like the Solos and the Vader and not the Vaders, the Skywalkers would be vain enough to be like, I need a little help here.
You know
So we're
what?
just gonna
They
use the
all have
Force.
perfect helmet hair. Every single
They all
time
have
someone
perfect
takes off a
hair,
helmet in
perfect
Star Wars,
skin.
they're beautiful.
They're all beautiful
With one
people.
glaring exception. I mean, Vader at the end of...
Oh, yes.
That's only because
How
he doesn't
true.
have hair. If he did have hair, it would have been perfect.
So true.
Anakin's hair was usually pretty alright.
That's true.
All right. So, continuing. You know I can take whatever I want? Obviously, he took flirting lessons from Dad. Next up, don't be afraid. I feel it too. Feel what? The weird sexual tension? Yeah, so can half the audience. Let's see. Spends the entire time looking at her like this. I've got the picture of them in the scene, but I'm sure you can envision it and remember it.
We're going to have to make
Yeah.
peanut gallery comments. Kate's got it
Oh,
covered.
no, I can do it for you, don't worry. Camera angle is purposely, making them look like they're inches apart. Not sure why. In the commentary, J.J. Abrams says, and then Adam takes the helmet off and he just looks like some kind of prince. Kylo looks her up and down again in the scene. Somebody hasn't seen a girl outside of Stormtrooper armor in 10 plus years.
That's solid.
The thing that I always come back to in this scene is, how long was he there before she woke up?
Oh, yeah. Okay, here we go.
Yeah, I figured you might get
the atheist perspective.
I think an uncomfortably long time.
Apparently,
He's
he's
doing
just...
the Edward Cullen.
Yes, no, right here.
No, that's
Apparently,
the thing.
he's just been watching her sleep. Please tell me there's a panic button on the apparatus she's strapped to.
There is, it doesn't do anything.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see. Or it just calls him back into the room.
That's right.
Let's see.
It's just there so he knows, oh good, she's panicking.
Yes.
Yeah, it gives the guards a good laugh. No, there she goes again. No.
He belittles her, calling her a simple scavenger, confused why BB-8 would share important information with her when she's just a nobody.
Now, to be fair, that could also just be negging.
Yes.
He's just a jerk that's trying to seduce her.
I'm not going to lie, that picture looks like Joe Biden going in for a good hair sniff.
All right. Here we go.
Anyway,
When he takes off the mask, she's not surprised. He's hot. She's confused why he doesn't look like Plo Koon or something. And I've just got a picture with Plo Koon, and he
I was
says
going to
rude.
say, Plo Koon is a handsome man, my good friend. Come on.
Daisy Ridley herself referred to this interrogation between Rey and Kylo as a torture scene. The point of this scene is to show Rey gaining power in the Force, which alarms Kylo. She is now a much bigger threat.
Though he likes powerful women.
Okay, here we go.
Sure.
Agnostic
Yeah, he doesn't.
perspective on the interrogation scene. Kylo is puzzled by Rey. He interrogates her quite differently from how he interrogated Poe. He takes her to his private chambers instead of an interrogation
That is a
room.
thing.
He probes her mind carefully.
we know this is his room and not
Well,
interrogation
he
chambers?
shoves the helmet down on the ashtray that's the same one in his room that he had,
I didn't notice that.
Yes.
But I do know why. This is actually an editing mistake.
Oh, really?
Well, not mistake. So in the commentary for Force Awakens, they had filmed that shot of him putting the mask on the ashes when he's having that conversation with Vader's helmet, but it worked better here. So...
I was gonna say, I do not think that's his private room. I think that is the
Is an
interrogation chamber.
Yeah.
Because I swear on
Oh.
my life, that is the same interrogation chamber that he throws Poe into. It's the
Okay.
same
Because
strap
I had
chair.
seen,
It does
I
look,
saw the
yeah,
ashes,
visually
and I was like,
similar.
well, then
And
that
then-
means this is his private room because that's
No.
where he had the ashtray.
But
But
all-
if it's an editing mistake, that would make perfect sense.
And then what I have heard is that the ashes are Darth Vader's ashes. That he
Yes.
went to Endor and got those ashes, and it's like his own little, like, I love Grandpapa's shrine.
So,
Yes,
in other
exactly.
words,
That's what we all do with our beloved
the
Grandpa.
new canon is he took his little shrine out of his room to the interrogation room so that he could have a wingman.
So he could look
I was
more
gonna say,
edgy
yeah,
and
Grandpa's
cool in
perfect.
front of the girl.
Yeah.
Okay, well, continuing on, even so,
Like a crappy motorcycle.
he probes her mind carefully, even though we know he could extract the information very quickly. Basically, because of the something he sensed, he wants to know who she is and what makes her this diamond in the rough. In the novel, Rey's reaction when Kylo removes the mask is simple surprise. She considers his face to be unremarkable, except his eyes, which she describes as intense. She also remarks that his voice is gentler than she expected, since she's hearing it undistorted for the first time. The interrogation scene is the true setup of Rey and Kylo's connection, both good and bad. Don't be afraid, I feel it too, can only refer to their Force bond, the one that comes into play so heavily in The Last Jedi. It's a strange scene, because it's a lot about intimacy, but it's stolen intimacy. In the book, Snoke himself says this interrogation of Rey caused Kylo to have compassion for her. Comparatively, Rey grows more resentful, so it's an interesting scene, no matter what,
There's
I
a
would
lot of
say.
complex
And it's
dynamics.
actually, I mean, it's hugely, I mean, this is paramount, especially to The Last Jedi, because this one interrogation scene sets up basically the entire relationship from here on out.
Yep.
It definitely sets the tone for what they're going to...
So let's see. Rey's vision, I kind of split this. I don't have a strictly religious perspective on it. I did religious and agnostic at once because that's kind of the only way to view it, or at least that's how I see it. But during Rey's vision, she sees Kylo run a man through with his lightsaber, a man who is seemingly about to kill her. But if this is a vision, Kylo shouldn't be able to see Rey. But then he stops and looks directly at her. Is this possibly a vision of the future, or is it the past? When Rey sees herself as a child watching the mysterious ship fly away, the ship sails into a weird red light that's the same shape as the eyeline of Kylo's mask. Why is this light even there? And why is it shaped like that so specifically? The vision ends with Rey seeing Kylo yet again. In the novel, Rey begins hearing the voice again at this moment, specifically from behind, then turns around to seek the voice and sees Kylo Ren emerge. Pablo Hidalgo stated in a tweet that the voice Rey is hearing is specifically the voice of a man.
I'll give you the atheist perspective on this. Like, we basically have it. Oh, you do have it. Okay, good.
Yep,
So you
here we
just
go.
had those as the same.
Oh yeah. When Rey sees Kylo run the man through with a lightsaber, she also hears Obi-Wan saying, "You will be tempted," at the exact same moment. This is because Kylo represents the dark side and Rey will be tempted by him. We see this come true in The Last Jedi. He was essentially a test that she passes. Rey seeing the mysterious ship fly away in Force Awakens does not line up with Kylo's story that Rey's parents are dead in a pauper's grave in the Jakku desert. It seems whoever abandoned Rey also left Jakku, or so this vision would imply. Maybe Rey's parents are still nobodies, like Kylo said, but worst case scenario for Reylo, they could still be related. Rey sees Kylo...
that
yeah.
one just gets to me every time.
All right.
Because
One last bullet point before discussion.
Very good.
Okay. Rey sees Kylo in the forest because it foreshadows their fight later on. Hearing the voice is totally unrelated. Not to mention, in the Last Jedi novelization, Rey says the voice she keeps hearing was simply her deluding herself into believing whoever abandoned her would return for her. If that's 100% true, then the voice and Kylo Ren are ultimately unrelated. Although I'm a little confused by that, because then why would Pablo Hidalgo say it was a man for sure? I don't know.
Well,
I don't know.
I mean, it's 50-50.
Yeah.
You know, it's either going to be man or woman, so I mean...
Yeah, but he states that it is very specifically a man, and if she's deluding herself, It's kind of weird that he specifically says it's a man and not a woman instead of just being like, could be anyone, ?
Well, and here's the other thing is these movies make it clear that these two are connected. First, basically balance has been brought to the Force, and she's basically being raised up as the opposite of Kylo Ren. And then B, Snoke literally connects them with, bridges them with the Force across time and space. So I don't really need a further reason for him to appear in her Force vision. They are literally connected. Her purpose in life in the Force, essentially, is to be his opposite.
Yes, and that comes up later. I do want to hear what you had to say, Kelsey, though, about them being related.
Oh, that one just bugs me so much because I'm very much a person of, especially with Star Wars lore, we need to have concrete canon proof before people can just say, no, this is how it is. And so everyone who wants to say that either she's a great granddaughter of Kenobi, or she is either sister to Kylo or cousin to Kylo or something along the lines of relation, it just bugs me because I sit there and I say, we do not have concrete proof at all that she is related to him. Sure, some of the dots might line up, but what they also so explicitly state in the movie is Kylo looks at her and says, I saw your future too. Your parents were scumbags. Sorry about that.
Well, and as I always like to point out in that scene, he says, you know who they are. He doesn't tell her they're scumbags.
Yes, I get into that later.
She says, they're nobody. And then he says, yup.
And what I also sit there and I want to say when people say, well, they're related, I'm like, if Kylo was so strong with the Force, I'm pretty sure he would have been like, oh, hey, what's up, sister? That's
Maybe.
awkward.
I don't know. I mean, isn't Luke pretty strong with the Force? And in the last one, he's like, Leia's my sister. I know that was not the original plan, and that's why it's so, out of left field in a lot of ways, especially when they have different last names to begin with. It's set up like it was going to be a love triangle, and then they went, just kidding, Leia's the sister. And it's kind of backtracking. So I get that surprise familial revelations go with Star Wars themes.
They do,
for
very
sure.
much.
Even if they don't necessarily make a whole lot of sense, but also, hold out till the last movie on that one.
Yeah. I did also want to verify, in your notes you said that he talks about how they were junk traders on Jakku. Does he actually say that? Or has he just said they were nobodies? I don't believe
he does specify that they were filthy junk traders.
Yeah, I watched the
And
scene
they
to get
sold
that line.
her for drinking.
Well, but they were still specifically on Jakku. Like, your point was that that they had died on
Oh,
Jakku.
that they might have been filthy junk traders, but they did not live on Jakku.
Right, they took off.
That's a fair point.
That was
I
my
hadn't
assumption.
considered
I've
that.
headcanoned that ship is her parents taking off. We don't know where they went, and we do
Right.
not know where they died,
It
or
just-
if they even have died. They
Well,
can
it
still
just
be around.
he just says they're dead in a pauper's grave on the Jakku desert. So he did say that
he
they're
did say
back
that.
in
I-
Jakku.
that's
Come
right.
on. Obviously, that ship was carrying her real parents that are going to show up later. She is obviously,
You know what? I wouldn't put
obviously
it
the
past
child
him.
of Hera Syndulla and General Grievous.
Oh my goodness! Yes. I wonder if there's a ship name for
That would be incredible. Okay, let's see.
Gridula.
So now here are
Well,
some.
that could be confusing, though. It could be Greedo and Syndulla.
Okay.
Oh, that's true.
So here are some extras about The Force Awakens from the religious perspective that I've heard. Let's see. The line from Maz, whoever you're waiting for on Jakku, they're never coming back. But there's someone who still could. This line could apply to both Luke and Ben Solo, especially since Maz keeps encouraging Rey to look ahead to find the belonging she seeks. He belongs in her future.
It could also apply to Finn.
Okay.
I mean, this is after he's
No,
left her.
I actually
so.
will agree with you on that because I wonder too how the Finn and Rey
Thing is gonna pan out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for the
no,
next
that's
movie.
fair.
I just have to say how dumb that is if Maz is literally hinting at her and like pushing her in the direction of a Kylo Rey
Maz
relationship.
is the
Maybe.
original
Yeah,
Reylo shipper.
Maz is like,
Absolutely.
yeah, I know he's like the most evil dude in the galaxy, but hit that.
Well,
You know, like,
if
Well-
you've been running the same bar for 1,000 years, quite frankly,
I was about to say, she's weirdly interested in people's love lives. She's like, go back to Leia, Han. Hey, where's Chewie? I want to hit
Also,
up Chewie.
what she says
Like-
is, they're never coming back, but someone else could. It doesn't have to be.
Personally,
at all
I think
romantic.
it's just Maz's form of entertainment. If she's
Yeah.
working the same bar for 1,000 years, to be matchmaker.
Yeah.
She wants.
No, she's just sitting there and she's
Who
just
doesn't
like,
want a
oh, this
piece
girl
of
has
the
the
gossip?
Force.
Well, and-
I'm going to hand her a really Force-centric object here and just to screw with her. This is going to be a blast.
Well, and honestly, to tell the truth, this could be entirely about Reylo, and Reylo's absolutely right. It's just that it's not necessarily in a romantic context. That could
Ooh,
still
okay,
happen.
I'll agree with you on that.
Yeah. Okay. So another thing, Han Solo dies lovingly caressing his lost son's face. In the exact same spot, we see Kylo's scar appear later on. The scar is both literal and emotional. Killing Han Solo did not strengthen Kylo's dark side. It weakened his resolve and will continue to do so. I've just got in here, I'm making fun of the line, "By the grace of your training, I will not be seduced." Yeah, right. Let's see. He's still interested in winning Rey over during their fight at the end. He keeps making her offers to join him. He's very reluctant to simply eliminate the serious threat she clearly poses. This one was one that I saw someone point out. Lots of fairy tale imagery. Like Maz's castle in the forest. JJ himself said that Kylo looks like a prince hiding behind a scary mask. Rey had a wilting flower in her house. You would know the story that I'm talking about.
Oh, yes.
Force Awakens extras for the
Remember a
atheist.
flower.
Yeah, that's
She has like a
in her
little
house.
She's got a lot of
sad
background stuff,
cactus-looking flower.
Yeah, it's
I'm
a little
gonna
flower
go back
that's
and watch
wilting.
it.
It's got petals falling off
Yeah.
it too. So, fun fact. Force Awakens extras for the atheist. Kylo Ren killed Han Solo. The light shining on Kylo literally disappears at this moment.
Yeah.
He cannot return from this. He has sealed his own doom. He force shoves Rey against a tree in the forest, and no, not in a sexy way. He fights Rey and makes her an offer to
We're gonna have to do an episode on kinky force use.
Oh man, I'm sure there's plenty of fan fiction
gonna have
to
to-
win the job
I'm
for you.
just trying to picture what my wife would say. "Listen, honey, I'm gonna shove you up against a tree, but you know, in a sexy way."
Like, great.
I thought
I'm ready.
Twilight took care of that already.
Exactly.
Gross. Ugh.
Let's see. He fights Rey and makes her an offer to join him because he can see she's powerful and doesn't want her to become a greater threat. But he doesn't necessarily want to kill her yet. Rey might have actually killed him in this fight had the ground not split apart between them. Oh,
Yeah.
It's fair.
fair
I
enough, boys.
will argue you on that.
I almost think it was the Force that's like, stop.
Stop it,
Stop.
you two.
Yes, exactly. Here's
Can you see how much you love each other?
slap on the head.
It was Maz hiding in the trees like, "No, dang it, Ray."
I do not think she was trying to kill him. One.
Okay.
I don't think Rey has it in her to kill someone. Now, I know she shoots down a few stormtroopers.
At the time, I would
Literally,
agree. I think
okay.
she's gotten there, but I think at the time I would.
I
I
get-
think
she
so.
shoots-
She was pretty pissed. She just,
Yeah.
because he just killed the only father figure
Right.
she ever had.
Well, and here's what I'm saying. So she shoots down a few stormtroopers when they're in the Planet Killer Station right after Ben kills Han Solo.
Star Killer Base, yeah.
Star Killer Base. I could
Planet
not.
Killer Station. Look out, guys! We just spoiled episode 9's battle station
I love it,
name.
actually. It's great.
Thank you. I could not remember that.
No,
station
you're good,
name
you're good.
for the life of me. So she shoots down a couple of them. Why? They're stormtroopers. They're shooting
Oh,
at
yeah.
her and Chewie. That's called self-defense.
Yeah.
But if you notice, whenever she's fighting off the other traitors on Jakku, the way she fights, she doesn't kill them. She just fights enough with her staff, we'll call it a staff, to get them away from her. And so I honestly think in that moment, also, if you look at the way she's fighting, the way she swings the lightsaber at him, he is doing almost most of the attacking in that fight, and she's doing most of the defense because he's
Yeah.
actually got a
Until
trained
that last
strokes.
moment where she gets him on the ground, though. That entire
Yeah.
sequence, everything shifts there, and she
And
is attacking
honestly,
him.
even
And
if she
he's-
is trying to kill her, or trying to kill him in this scene, I don't really blame her, and I actually don't necessarily think that that means Reylo's off either, to be honest.
You can come back from that.
Couples fight. It's fine.
But that's what I'm saying though, is like, even though like her body language, the way she's striking at him, the way she's doing, I feel like if she was going to
Kill him.
she would have done what is so classic in all the movies, where they kind of point the lightsaber at the person's neck, give them a death glare, say something very menacing, and then they chop their head off.
So just no hesitation.
Yeah, and she does take a few swings, but all the rest of her swings, we'd have to sit down and turn on the movie.
obviously
and I'd
with
have
the
to point it
caveat
out
that
to
I'm
you.
the person who brought up the difficulty in relying on expression and body language and all of that in these. But at the same time, I'm having a hard time picturing any of what you're saying from that fight. I just watched that fight like 2 nights ago, and everything that carries across to me once she does her moment of, oh, that's right, I can use the Force at the end, and from the rest of the fight from through there is her brutality in that fight. Like,
Yeah.
she is not gentle.
I think that this is actually...
This is not I'll just strike off to the side here. This is I'm trying to kill you.
Yeah, and honestly,
and
I
that's-
actually, later on, I bring it up. There's an excerpt from the novelization where I want to talk about the reason why Rey decides not to kill Kylo when she leaves him in Snoke's throne room. There is actually a reason why, and I think that it has to do with character development, that she's changed from this first moment where maybe she would have killed him to that moment where she decides not to.
And also, like, after the ground splits and, like, they're getting pulled apart, the look on her face is very much like, dang it, I can't finish you off. Like, she looks like she wants to keep kicking his
Rey
butt.
has a fair amount of rage,
Yeah.
especially when it comes
And
to
also
him.
jumping forward to Last Jedi, her first response to seeing him through the Force
Is
is to
shoot
shoot
him
him.
All right,
immediately.
okay, perfect segue. Let's get into The Last Jedi.
Okay, hold on though. I've got
Okay.
some stuff for Force Awakens.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
If
Yes.
that is okay.
Yeah.
So I kind of with everything with Reylo that I took from it is basically how the producers are saying they're going to get together, and then also how the producers are saying they're not going to get together.
Okay.
So similar to kind of what you've done, I'm just going to do the two sides. So I'm going to go through my list, and then we'll get into the Last
Jedi, because it's
I've got
a
so
lot
much
to unpack.
Okay. So I'm going to unpack Poe and Kylo Ren for Last Jedi, or for Force Awakens. I will not unpack them for Last Jedi yet. We'll leave that for later. So
Sure.
Poe and Kylo Ren. Okay.
Well,
and-
it's
and
about
this-
their dynamic
about-
in comparison to
Yeah.
Reylo.
okay.
So what you have is that
We all know
Kylo
Force
Ren
Awakens
captures
so let's-
Kylo Ren captures
Rose.
Poe. He locks him up, and it's a short conversation. He totally force tortures Poe.
Oh, yeah.
He's being menacing. So a little bit about me is I'm an actress. I'm a theater person, so I do theater professionally, and also theater people. We study a lot about technology, or not technology. I can't talk today. Wow, psychology. There we go. That's what I want to say. And we study a lot about the voice and the emotions and how the emotions are affecting your body. So if you listen to the way Kylo Ren talks to Poe,
Very
his
different.
voice is very it's low, but it's very sharp and shrill and menacing and powerful. And
To be fair, he's also in The Mask, which makes him sound extra scary.
that's true. So we have that. Okay. And then if you look at Rey, when he takes Rey, and I'm kind of jumping around a little bit, but in the room scene, the first time he talks to Rey, his voice is quite gentle. And
Well, she notes it in the novel. She's like, wow. Like, because she's surprised. I don't think it's necessarily like she's like, oh, I'm so impressed he's being kind with me. It's more like she's
What
just
a gentle
totally,
man.
yeah, she's just totally caught off guard because it's a 180 from what he sounded like before.
Oh, yeah. So, and I'm going to go into more detail on that, but I'm going to backtrack a little bit so I make more sense. Okay, so their first interaction together, she's shooting him in the forest. If you notice, he deflects her bullets, but he never does that thing with the lightsaber where they can deflect the bullet back at the attacker.
Yeah, no, he's definitely not trying to harm her.
Yeah. And so that was one thing for me. I was like, okay, if he wanted to harm her, he would have just killed her right then and there and been done with it and gotten the droid and left. But he does not want to. So, and then when he force freezes her, we'll just call it that. If you notice, he puts his lightsaber down behind his back. His lightsaber is still active and he's walking around her. But then only when he wants the information about Luke Skywalker from her, then does he put his lightsaber up to threaten her.
Yes.
And he holds it close to her face that she can probably feel the heat, especially from that lightsaber, because it's not fully formed.
She goes into
So-
description in the novel. It freaks her out.
But that's a very passive thing to do, where he's saying, I'm still keeping my defenses up. I'm still in charge here. Right from the beginning, he's establishing, I want to connect with you more than I want to disconnect with you.
I would disagree that putting that lightsaber there is at all I want to connect with you. That's very distinctly a threat.
Yeah, I think it's threatening. It's just that at this moment,
No,
he
she
wants
means-
more
she means
information
when the
from
saber's
her.
I'm saying when this lightsaber
Then he
is
wants
down,
to kill her.
Yeah.
behind his back.
Even then, he's still got it on. It's still threatening.
Oh, it's so
Like-
threatening.
But
but it is
less threatening than shoving it in her
I do
face.
not argue at all that he's far less threatening with her than with Poe, and that he's obviously far more interested in trying to bring her to the dark side. But at the same time, I don't read into any of what he's doing any form of actual gentleness or actual consideration.
Yeah, I think that my perspective on it is that he goes to her, he wants information, he's trying to get this information, but he doesn't really have any reason to be extremely threatening, because again, you have to think of him and his perspective where he's at. He's a convert to the dark side. He tells her simple ignorances are easily remedied. He thinks of her as just a naive bystander, essentially. That she can be fixed because that's what happened to him. He isn't after her necessarily. And then in the moment where he senses the Force in her, now he's intrigued. So that changes things, and that shift happens fairly quickly. I would agree, no, he is not trying to deliberately harm her, but let's not, I wouldn't want to say that the setup isn't him being deliberately threatening.
I'll say
He
this,
is being
though.
deliberately threatening, for sure. But what I'm saying is that because there's all these little things right off the bat that
the producers are trying to do. They're like, okay,
Yeah.
we want to basically set this up so that we can still change your mind later, basically.
Yeah.
I'll say this. I'm sitting here thinking about the comparison between Poe and Rey and the interrogation styles, right?
Yeah.
So if a dude is coming up to another dude trying to get information...
I don't know, it is Poe, though.
You gotta strut and posture and be like, look, I'm the alpha male here, I'm gonna get in your face.
Your
I'm
average
gonna...
male-to-male interaction
Is
tends to be
definitely-
significantly
Especially,
Yeah,
I'm sure
you
there's
know?
some salt in the wound, too, because this is apparently his mother's new favorite.
Yeah, that's also true.
Yeah.
But
about
there's
that.
definitely, I think, just a straight like male to male, like, well, I'm gonna show you who's in charge, Mr. Dameron. It's me. Look at my cool helmet. Look at my cool lightsaber. I'm in charge. See?
And especially where they'd already established where Poe is so flippant.
Yeah.
But yes, there is a difference there.
And
Yes.
then with a woman though, it's like okay, getting all up in your face is gonna make you clam up and get defensive. Whereas if I come in and I'm like, hey, let's do this the easy way. Like, let me show you. Look, I'm not all that bad here. Like taking that approach, I think, with a woman from a man's perspective, like, man to woman, I think would be
And
easier.
Especially a woman who seems to just be caught up in this mess that he doesn't seem to think that she is deliberately with the rebellion. He does tell her, oh, the friends that are like traitors and thieves, like, sure, but I don't think he thinks of her as like an embodiment of the rebellion.
No,
yes.
No, he
but,
doesn't
and
at all.
also she's
Yeah.
a nobody, so the fact that he's going, okay, you're a backwater Jakku nobody, you probably don't have many friends. Let me come in here and let me be your buddy, and let's see if we can't
Well, I
get
would
that working
definitely
for
say
us.
that is a strong part of their bond in general, is that they can both sense the other one's loneliness. But
Oh,
Yeah.
my
Well,
gosh.
there's that too,
Okay.
but
We've got
Yeah, yeah. Go ahead,
So,
go ahead.
I'm gonna keep going with,
well, I guess my point with that is it's not necessarily romantic, even though there is a clear
Yeah.
difference.
Yes.
It's not necessarily romantic. It could just be this is how males
I
interact with
definitely
males
agree that there's a
versus
difference
males
in the
interacting
treatment,
with
but there's
females.
a vast difference between agreeing that
Yes.
there's a difference and agreeing that there's anything even remotely romantic.
Right.
And I do agree with that. However, at the same time, the reason I argue it is because he could have come in and just been like, where's the droid? Where's Luke Skywalker? You don't want to talk? Okay, fine. Shoot her if she says anything annoying.
Well, that it's
And that's not the
mostly
approach he took.
it's setting up what their relationship is going to be later, because obviously it does change here in The Last Jedi.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so
Okay.
here's
No,
how
she's got a bit more.
Oh,
I
you
got
have
more.
a bit
I got
more?
more
Oh,
on
I'm so
Force
sorry.
Awakens.
Go
No, you're
ahead.
good. Okay, so he then, we can already address it, that he leaves BB-8 on the planet with the map to Luke Skywalker in full detail, or at least a little piece, in his memory banks, and takes a human being who we do
Yeah.
not have secure full memories, because every time you remember something, you're remembering the last time you remembered it.
Listen,
That's
Well,
what memory
in
it's a
was.
real
bad
life.
judgment call, and he's thinking with his other head, all right?
And so, we'll just talk about that. One thing that does intrigue me is that he makes her pass out so that he can kidnap her. Now, at first glance, that's like, that's not good. That's called abduction.
Yep.
And it's not good, and I agree it's not good.
Pulling a Cosby, I think is what we call
However,
that.
he did not call his troops over, put her hands in those
Yeah.
really cool stormtroop
Yes.
wrist lock
Bridal
handcuff
carry.
things,
Yeah, the bridal carry
and then
is
throw her
definitely
over
worthy
his
of note.
shoulder. He gently bridal carries her, making sure that she doesn't hit her head.
It
on
is
the
a little
hull of the
dainty,
ship.
yeah.
Well, he does. Also, if you notice the way he knocks her out and immediately goes into that bridal carry.
Yeah, he catches her. He doesn't
Very
even let her
much-
fall on the ground.
Yeah, he's like, we don't want this to be
Again, I have the same objections here, where it's like there's a far cry from I'm not being as brutal as I could theoretically be, and there's something here.
I don't think
But-
the
well,
argument.
But also the other part of it is that he's going against standard practice, right? Normally, I don't think him knocking people out is a normal thing for him to do.
No, it's not. I don't think it is at all.
Because well, I mean, why
I think
didn't
the
he do it
normal
to
thing
Poe?
for him is to kill people, because the last village they go to at the beginning
Yeah,
of
he
The Force
just
Awakens,
murders
he's like,
everybody.
kill them all. let's wipe our hands clean. We're done
And
with
see,
this.
why, as you as the leader, why would you do the heavy lifting? Why wouldn't you wait for a couple stormtroopers?
Because this one has the Force. This one is special.
Yeah,
Like,
that
there
was my
doesn't have to
agnostic
be anything
perspective.
even
Yeah.
remotely romantic
That's
about
fair.
this.
I agree. I don't think it has to be romantic, but I do think it's worth noting because it's still transformative. It's the sort of thing where
it's a
looking
definite
back
classical
on it,
visual.
Yeah.
And that's fine.
I also just want to say, watching this, it was a little bit suspension of disbelief straining to see him carry her, because he's so thin looking in that uniform. And then episode 8 comes out and we get shirtless Kylo Ren and it all makes sense.
Yep, he's got a TARDIS uniform.
Yep, exactly.
I love it. All right, I'm gonna kind of bounce through these, so I'll kind of go through these a little quick.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
You're good. So he carries her. His first line to her is, "You're my guest."
Be
When-
my guest. Be my guest.
And that's the first line. That's the first line to
Well
her
done.
in the interrogation room.
This definitely
Is-
fits in with the whole Beauty and the Beast motif.
Oh yes, is "You're my guest." He could have not answered her question. He could have said a million other things and said, "You're my guest," which implies some sort of hospitality thing going on. Then when she asks where the friends are, he says, "You'll
I
be
want
relieved
nothing
to
more from
hear."
episode 9
Than a musical number?
Than,
Me too.
Yes.
Hux like standing on a table.
Want a
B.
classic Return of the Jedi musical number. Yeah.
So much yes in that statement.
The community would melt down.
Oh man!
Absolutely.
Can you
tear itself
imagine?
apart.
I would be delighted though.
It was so great.
All right,
another-
it'll just be like a George Lucas like special feature, you know, that's like buried in the DVDs. You
Well,
know?
we had an
Save it for the
Ewok.
special edition.
Yeah.
We'll just add it in 20 years.
We had an
Yeah.
Ewok choir dance, so I guess we could do a Kylo Ren Stormtrooper dance.
Yeah.
So then the next line he says to her is, "You'll be relieved to hear I have no idea," talking about that he doesn't know where the friends are. Could be that he's mocking her, sure. Also, why would he care about her relief? Why would he care, and why would he say, "Well, you'll like
Yeah,
to know
I
that
think
have no
it's-
idea."
Because he's trying to win over her trust. It just depends on the context you're looking at it in.
Yeah.
So you can look at it in a romantic context. Sure. You can also look at it as, okay, because he tells her in the novel, I said it in here, that I will be honest with you up front, basically, is what he tells her.
Yeah.
So he, again, you have to look at this. He doesn't see himself as the bad guy. And I think even he in his mind, well, if I willingly deceive her, that's technically wrong, and he has no, he doesn't necessarily lose anything by telling her, okay, I don't know where they are.
Of course he doesn't lose anything.
Most of these bits of dialogue, too, though, are things that I'm like, you could easily trans that over to Blofeld and Bond, and it wouldn't be out of place. The be my guest thing, the you'll be relieved to know. But there wouldn't be anything, nobody would be sitting there going,
Yeah,
well,
but
clearly, this means Blofeld has
It's
a
a
thing for
fun
him.
conspiracy theory, though.
I agree
It's the
with
what
you.
ifs about this that make it fun.
I agree with you with the "be my guest." It could be
Oh,
just
totally
a
arbitrary.
randomly line. But as far as the I don't know where your friends are, that feels like a weird bit of information to give to the enemy, right?
Well,
you would think that you wouldn't.
But
An
He's
enemy
not
that
an
you
enemy.
don't anticipate escaping, so who cares what she knows, right?
I guess, but I feel
But
like
also, I just look at it more as him going, okay, I'm a man clearly in a position of power over this woman. In order to get what I want from her, if I'm not going to just, mind rape her and pull it out myself, then I have to make her my friend.
Right.
I have to make her want to do this.
We do
So-
need to keep moving.
Okay, so
So let me. How about this? Let me blow through the rest of Force Awakens. I'm just gonna blow through it real
Yeah,
quick,
yeah,
and then
go.
we'll go on to Last Jedi.
Go.
Okay. Okay. He senses that she wants to kill him. Why does he care? And why is he probing around in her head? Why is he so fascinated about what's going on in her head? What's
something.
going on in her mind?
Curious about the Force.
When he takes off his mask, he stands up. Because the whole time he's been sitting down with the mask on. Personally, the way I interpreted that was he was like, "What, you want to see my face? Okay, well, why don't you see all of me? I mean, you've already been seeing all of me, but now really check it out. I know it's awesome."
Oh, and
okay.
he steps it up. He steps up his game come Last Jedi.
And then,
No, he doesn't. He does such a bad job that Snoke has to snap in and be like, all right, we're going to connect you now.
And then she watches him put his helmet down after he takes it off, and then she looks back at the wall, and she has this look on her face of like, "Oh, I wasn't looking at you. What are you talking about?" And then she does another glance over, like, "Hold up, wait, what did I just see?"
I think
like,
she's also
"Oh,
made
wow."
very
She's like,
nervous by him, and making eye contact is probably extremely
And if you-
uncomfortable. Because she wasn't having eye contact before. She was looking at a mask. Now he's a person, and I think that either way, that's just
But
kind
there's
of
like
alarming.
this split second on her face where she's like, "I wasn't looking at you. Why was I looking at you? Like, it's not like you're really attractive or anything." Anyway, Then, when he says to her, you know I can take whatever I want, if you listen to the sound of his voice is like real husky right there, and really almost sexual, so that's something to think about. Then, when he is trying to get the information out of her brain, he totally is leaning into her, and just because of where he's placed himself, basically, the side of her face and her neck are what he's looking at the most. And me being me, I have taken the time to look at some photos and some GIFs and other stuff like that. And some people have taken like screenshot images of that scene, and they've dissected where his eyes are going. He is so thirsty. Oh my goodness me.
Like I said, someone hasn't seen a girl out of Stormtrooper armor in 10 plus years.
And then he's spending all his time with Raisin Snoke, so I don't blame him. Okay. Then, when he realizes that she has read his mind, he is scared to death. If you look, his face changes from, oh, you hot, to like, oh no.
Oh, you not.
No. Oh, you not. And why would, and then when I would ask this, why would it matter to him if she saw his insecurities? Why would it matter to him if she sees him as weak?
Because no one does.
Right. But
Well,
especially
because for him, he doesn't want anybody to see him as weak. It's not her in particular.
Yeah.
Right. But that makes a difference. Whenever, we all liked someone at some point. So when you like someone, you don't want them to see you as weak. And so
no, I get into that within
Or when
the
you're a
Last Jedi.
megalomaniacal dictator, you don't want anyone to see you as weak.
Yes, I also get into that in the Last Jedi.
So then with Snoke, he clumsily tries to defend why he took a girl with a possibly bad memory instead of a droid with a perfect memory. He throws a huge fit when she escapes with his lightsaber. Then there's the whole headcanon, which this would be for another episode, but the whole headcanon that Han killed himself and struck the lightsaber button instead of Kylo killing Han. And the reason I bring that up is because if that is what happens is that immediately after...
I think it's an easy absolution. I like it.
Immediately after he kills Han Solo, he looks up at Rey.
And
he
sees that
kinda,
she's out. But
so
then wouldn't he... I feel
it?
like the first thing he would have done when they have Force Spawns, though, in The Last Jedi, when he's trying to win her over, because that is what he's doing in The Last Jedi, is he would have said, well, I didn't actually... Like, why would he not tell her?
I agree with you on that, but the thing is, they haven't established whether or not Han killed himself or whether Kylo killed Han. Therefore, it would have made no sense for him to be like, hey, I didn't do it, unless the writing was like, okay, no, that's a really, really important
But didn't
detail
you
that we
argue
need.
that, we don't know about her parentage, so we need to wait till the last episode? Can't you make the same argument in this case with the lightsaber, that if we don't know yet, and what we see, everything that we've seen is that he killed him? Shouldn't we just accept that he killed him?
You can, but at the same time, that's what I'm saying, is we don't know if he killed him. So the point I'm making with this theory, though, is that Chewie shoots Ben, and Ben drops to the ground, and then immediately he looks up, and you can tell he is looking at Rey that whole time, and that intrigues me. Okay, and then I'll finish up with Force Awakens almost done. So then the fight in the forest, he has a total bar fight with Finn. He's like, oh, come on, homeboy, you got her? Yeah, bring it. And then he does say to her, he's like, it's just us now, after he knocks Finn out. Yeah. Why would he care? If he's fighting her in a snowy forest, just the two of them. Hot date, right?
Because that's her opportunity to defect to the dark side, because nobody's gonna see. I mean, there's a lot of reasons you could say
there is
that.
a lot of reasons we could get there. He doesn't kill Finn, even though he totally could. He just wounds him. A theory I have is he's like, uh-oh, she likes him. I don't know how much, but she does. Okay, well, we can't kill off the boyfriend, so let's just kind of get him out of the way temporarily while I deal with her. He doesn't hold back when fighting Rey, but my other question is, why does he not just choke her out? Why does he not just take the Force and just be like, okay, I'm done with this?
That's a question for literally every Force fight ever. Like, literally every lightsaber battle. Like, that's not a flaw here. That's a flaw everywhere.
And so then, and then the last thing I'll say about Force Awakens is this. All the shots where they're together as she's about to fall off the cliff and they're both sweating, the camera angles, I'm not a film actress, I'm a theater person, but I know a little bit about film angles. I took a class recently. All those film angles that they're using in that scene are normally reserved for
very
intimacy scenes. Yeah. And by intimacy, I mean sex scenes. So that's what they're used for, is these really close-up shots on the face and on... like,
or the entirety of Les Miserables.
That's And so it intrigues me as to why this, and this was one of the main things as to why would the producers be using camera angles like this in a fight scene. And this is the moment, though, when he says, you need a teacher. I could show you the ways of the Force, and he is inviting her to be with him. And that was the one right there for me where I went, Reylo's gonna happen.
I mean, for me, the why of it is these people are literally face to face. There is no other way to get their face in frame without it being blocked off.
Well, and also, it's just, I think that whether or not it's romantic, this sequel series is about their relationship.
That is true.
And so these kind of shots, you know, where they are like really intensely looking at each other, it is about their connection, but that doesn't immediately mean it must be romantic. It can't.
Yeah.
It's not really. It's plausible, but not necessarily proof.
Yeah.
But what I will say, though, is personally, again, this is just me personally, though, I swear, the sexual tension is going through the roof.
Oh no, it's really
in
bad.
that scene.
That's why everyone is freaking out about it. I mean, I even remember, okay, this was pre-Last Jedi, which Last Jedi just, blew everything out of the water. But I still remember, even with Force Awakens, the big takeaway from it, as far as shipping goes, was Reylo. I remember everyone talking about Reylo, and at the time, I didn't even really ship Reylo. I kind of did as kind of like a guilty trash ship, right? But I was like, yeah, exactly. But I was like, it's not actually gonna go anywhere. Like, I didn't actually have any faith in it until The Last Jedi, and then I was like, okay, let me look at the whole dang thing again. But obviously, yeah, the takeaway, a lot of people got that as the takeaway, because I remember Reylo being hugely popular even after Force Awakens, and that's pre-Last Jedi, so that's saying something.
But I wonder, though, because we see this so much in Last Jedi, where it's kind of like, hey, you expected this thing? Here's this other thing.
Yeah.
And so with people in Episode 7 being like, oh, Reylo, 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 they could be like, hey, Episode 8, here it is. Pull the rug out from under you in Episode 9,
And it's gonna break
Well,
my
and
little Reylo heart if they
Also,
do.
the fact that a lot of people got that
true.
from this doesn't convince me in the slightest, because then I'm like, well, yeah, and a lot of people decided out of nowhere that Katara and Zuko were going to be a thing. Clearly, that's what's going on here.
Yeah, well,
and
I mean,
it's so blatantly, obviously not a thing. That, I mean, people make crap up because they see something in a relationship that they want personally in a relationship,
Yes.
or that reflects what they have in a
or
relationship,
that's
and
just
so
more
connects to them.
entertaining than what's actually going on.
Or that it just strikes their preferences more. And so the
Or-
fact that people can find it there doesn't
Or even more baseless than any of that, because I see this a lot with Critical Role, is people will be like, I enjoy this female character, how they're played, who they are. I enjoy this male character, how they're played, who they are. I would love it if these two, I'm all on board now. Here's my headcanon. Here's how these two are gonna, and then they start looking to make those most ridiculous tangents.
And what you have to understand, okay, personally, as a shipper who has shipped everything, and also as a shipper who has been annoyed with every kind of ship as well, I feel like I always get ships where I'm like, oh yeah, this is what I like, this is it, and then I'll find another ship where I'm like, oh, I guess I have an exception now, where I'm like, oh no, I mostly ship canon, and then I find a non-canon example, but I've been annoyed with the non-canon shippers. I've shipped everything pretty much across the board at this point, so I can understand all points of view. Yeah. And when it comes to shipping, I understand that there's a certain gut reaction sometimes to just be like, no, that's not what it means, that's not what it is, just stop it! Like, I understand getting annoyed.
For me, it's just that sort of thing where it's like, I mean, I avoid fanfiction like the plague, but on occasion I have picked up fanfiction or a canon fanfiction like Batman White Knight or something, where it's like, okay, what if though? What if we had these? See, I'll just write this and show you how plausible it is, and then you read the fanfic and it's like, okay, that's not plausible in the slightest, because all you've shown us is that the idea you have of these characters is not reflective of what these characters have been in the past. Like, you are not writing those characters, you are writing a different version of those characters. And I like the Batman White Knight because that one's about, it's basically this what if short where the Joker gets treatment and goes straight. He's sane again, and then he's trying to take Batman down as a politician concerned for Gotham because he doesn't think Batman's good for Gotham. It's a great idea. I started reading it and I went, oh, this isn't a story about what would happen if the Joker went sane and tried to take down Batman. This is a story about what would happen if a completely different version of the Joker from what you've always seen in the past went sane and tried to take down a very different version of Batman from what you've seen in the past. Like, this is very much not the Joker as you've ever seen him in anything, anywhere. He's a very neutered version of the Joker to make it more palatable for people to buy it. And so it's this sort of thing where it's like, I bet that the writer of that was fully convinced that, oh yeah, I've written the Joker. Like, this is just the Joker. I'm just showing you a new side of him. And it's like, no, you're literally writing a different character. And that's kind of the territory I feel like we get into with a lot of the Reylo stuff, where I'm just like, you could interpret it that way. But if you actually put that in a drastically evident way that could not be misinterpreted another way, it wouldn't be the same characters anymore. Like, that's because that's not really what they're doing.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into the last show, because I feel like we gotta continue.
Did you still have...
No, I was saying, those were my notes for Force Awakens, and what I was going to say is that I'm playing both sides of the coin. So I'm not going to say Reylo is going to happen, Reylo should happen, everything about Reylo is perfect, because it is so absolutely not. And I'm also not going to say, absolutely not, Reylo is never going to happen. Why would it happen? It's, that's stupid. Yep. And so those were kind of my observances with Force Awakens as to mostly why the producers are saying and the writing is saying, this is going to happen. And I will argue that it may just be a kind of, we're both lonely, so we have loneliness and family and daddy issues. You want to just be my friend, and they may not fall in love, or they might. But let's get into Last Jedi, because that's where all the meat is.
Okay, so Last Jedi, first Force bond.
First scene where we actually see the two of them together.
Yes. During their first Force bond scene in The Last Jedi, two things are very quickly established. One, Rey and Kylo can't harm each other through the Force bond physically, and two, they can't manipulate each other with the Force. Rey's blast doesn't work, nor does Kylo's "you will bring Luke Skywalker to me." Kylo doesn't even seem angry at Rey for slicing up his face. And this is Kylo we're talking about, who is always angry. His only reaction to seeing her is mild curiosity and awe about how it's even possible. In the book, even their physical senses are connected. Rey can feel the medical droid working on Kylo's face as though it were her own.
Does it say that in the book?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Rey is the one who gloats over Kylo. She's the one preoccupied with being defensive, partly because she's angry at him, and partly because she's still scared of him. Even though she won the fight on Starkiller Base, he's seen her, been inside her head. It was emotional vulnerability. Now the Force is connecting them, and all they can do is talk.
Or she's angry and defensive because she just watched him kill a dude that mattered to her.
Yes.
I don't really
That's
need
also
more
part of it.
justification
No,
for
that's
that.
part
no,
of it.
no,
I'll
no.
throw that in 100%.
Yeah.
But I'm saying that I could totally make an argument that that's 100% of it. Like, she's mad. Like,
Yeah, but it also builds as the movie goes along.
Well, and
sure.
I'm not sure the whole her winning the fight should be considered, because he had some major disadvantages in
Yeah.
the fight.
even with that though, I'm saying that yes, you can hearken that back to, oh, he's been inside my head, but there's not really anything to indicate that that is what's discomfiting her. Like, their last interaction was him killing a dude, them fighting, her almost killing him. That's about it. Oh, he also sliced up her friend. I mean, killed a dude, sliced up her friend.
Yes.
Almost, I don't need more. Anyway.
Yeah. Okay. For the most part, Kylo is unsurprised by the bond because he sensed something there from the beginning. You can even hear the same rumbling noise in the interrogation scene that you hear during their Force bond scenes. It's just the sound of the Force. The weirdest reality about Kylo and Rey's relationship here is because Kylo looked into Rey's mind and because of Rey's remarkable isolation, he probably knows her better than anyone else does at this point in time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll agree with that.
Yeah. Okay. Second Force bond. Similarly to the first time they met, Kylo is still interested in getting Rey to see things from his point of view and making her understand what he perceives to be the truth. Rey is still acting defensively, totally unfazed by Kylo's attempts to connect until he agrees that he is a monster. This admission of guilt is obviously shocking to her, but it also humanizes him in a way that works because it makes him vulnerable. She is now beginning to know him the way that he knows her, and she is puzzled by him the same way that he was puzzled by her.
And I'm sure that's the birth of the "there's still good in him," her belief in that there's still good in.
Third Force bond. By the third Force bond, the concept of vulnerability is extremely obvious. Rey sees Kylo shirtless, a literal manifestation of physical vulnerability. And by the middle of their conversation,
And
Rey
sexiness.
Rey is reduced to tears. Rey begins the scene by trying to understand Kylo for the first time. She asks him why he hated his father instead of remaining content to assume Kylo must be the one at fault. Here, we really dig into the heart of both Rey and Kylo's issues. For the first time, they acknowledge the vulnerability Kylo gained from Rey during the interrogation. He knows why she's so upset he killed his own father. Rey's parents abandoned her, and her longing for a parental bond is at the heart of everything she does. Even knowing this information, the only reason Kylo is able to move Rey so deeply is because he is being empathetic, looking for them everywhere, in Han Solo, now in Skywalker. He understands this about her only because he did the exact same thing. When Kylo encourages Rey to let the past die, she listens to him because she knows it's the truth. Even Maz advised her to stop dwelling on the past. She is running out of excuses to deny these realities. Fourth Force Bond. By the fourth Force Bond, Rey isn't just trying to understand Kylo, she is confiding in him, willingly giving him the vulnerability she was originally so desperate to defend. The moment Rey... Oh, this is an excerpt from The Last Jedi novel, just so you know. The moment Rey reached her hut, she had felt him near her in the Force. The connection between them was so raw and powerful, it reminded her of touching a live wire in the wreckage of a starship. She had closed her eyes, opened them, and found Kylo Ren there, right next to her where she sat on the stone bench, as if she could actually reach out and touch his hand, his face, his hair. At the sight of him, she felt relief surge through.
Fingers through his hair.
So does Chris.
Who wouldn't?
I feel like that even reads a little bit like a romance novel.
Yes.
This offering of vulnerability isn't met with disgust or superiority by Kylo. Instead, it's met with equal defenselessness. They understand each other. And I included this quote just because I thought it was suitable. In the moment when I truly understand my enemy, understand him well enough to defeat him, then in that very moment I also love him. I think it's impossible to really understand somebody, what they want, what they believe, and not love them the way they love themselves. Orson Scott Card, Ender's Game. Whether or not this scene was supposed to be explicitly romantic, it is undeniably about compassion. Kylo and Rey have come to such an understanding of each other. Rey goes from calling him Snake and Monster to calling him by his real name, Ben. The elevator scene in the battle.
Which I wonder too if Ben is his name or if it is his nickname. Because if it's... So I wonder if like Han and Leia named him Benjamin or something that Ben could be a nickname
Obi-Ben.
of. No, Obi-Ben, I don't know. And then it's his nickname. And so this is just a fun curiosity theory I have real quick, is that if Ben is his nickname and like mommy and daddy called him Ben as a nickname, obviously there would be like no way she would know that. And then if she's calling him Ben, because I feel like when you're calling someone by a nickname...
No, she heard Han yell it.
Right, but that's what I'm saying is that
she doesn't necessarily know that's what she's doing.
Okay.
Yeah, like if she doesn't know that Ben is his nickname given to him by his parents,
And then she
what's
says
fun
it.
to think about is that I feel like if someone calls you a nickname, that's a very intimate thing to do. Like my nickname is Kels, but you have to have the permission to call me Kels, and if I'm not giving you that permission, I actually like will get insulted because I'm like, no, we're not that intimate.
Yeah.
And so it's just fun to think about.
Short for Kelsey, right?
Kelsey,
Parents
yes.
were big Mistborn fans.
And so what I wonder is that if that's his nickname and then she's calling him Ben, again, that's an intimate thing to do. And I wonder if for him, it's like, you call me by the name. You're not even calling me by the full name. If there even is a full little tangent, keep going.
Elevator scene and battle. Rey makes a plea to Kylo in the elevator that is blatantly reminiscent of Luke's elevator scene with Vader. In Luke's scene, he calls Vader father to humanize him. In this scene, Rey calls Kylo Ben for the same reason. Rian Johnson has stated that Kylo did not have a plan when he headed into the throne. He's still trying to think of a plan while he's standing in the elevator. You can see Kylo's moment of realization during the throne room scene when his lightsaber goes flying out of Rey's hand and spins on the floor in front of him. Snoke senses Kylo's resolve, acknowledges it, but obviously doesn't fully understand it. Snoke dies just like the Emperor he so idolized. Kylo's motivations to kill Snoke aren't just about his own deep-seated resentments, although that's a major part of it. He is hugely driven by Rey. She is essentially the only light in his life at this point. You can see his concern during the battle sequence when he gets distracted worrying about Rey's safety, even though he's fighting 3 guards and she's only fighting 1. He didn't just kill Snoke to usurp to command. He did it because he didn't want to give up another thing he cares about, probably the only thing left that he genuinely cares about, to the dark side. This is the first time we've ever really seen the light side and the dark side working together on the big screen. It's an enormous moment. Like yin and yang, Kylo and Rey are in perfect balance.
And this is something we discussed in the car here, that there are a lot of people that are just like, oh, he was just using her to get da-da-da-da-da. And it's like, no, it's within the context of everything this movie shows us, it is very clear that she is the catalyst for all the choices he makes here. Like, he did not go into that throne room like, finally, my ridiculously circuitous plan is complete. He went in there and went, Yeah, she's right. I'm going to do something about this.
Yeah. I mean, as much as he is Luke's nephew, and he is one for those kind of roundabout plans,
Sure.
I do not think that was Kylo.
One of my absolute favorite Star Wars memes is going into a room with the prisoner to his master and having absolutely no idea what he's going to do is the most Solo thing I've ever heard of in my life.
Yep, that's a
And
joke.
I just love it because it's so true.
Kylo's offer. Just how Kylo and Rey's elevator scene was deliberately reminiscent of Luke and Vader's elevator scene, Kylo's offer to Rey is blatantly reminiscent of Anakin's offer to Padme. Both Kylo and Rey are evidently desperate to win each other over.
To win the other one.
Yeah, to win the other one over. They beg each other to stay. They have a genuine connection. They don't want to leave each other. Kylo telling Rey about her parents really amounts to Rey admitting the truth to herself about her parents. It's been building up since the first moment we saw Rey on Jakku. She only stays because she can't let this go. Now, Rey is letting Ben go. She's not going to hold on the way that he does. Rey wants to be with Ben Solo, but Kylo Ren is standing in the way. Rey is growing. Kylo is stuck. The last Force bond. Rey had... this is another excerpt from the novel. Sorry, I keep shooting into these. Rey had stood over Kylo, lying unconscious on the floor of the throne room after the detonation of Luke's lightsaber, and she had seen very clearly what she could do, and yet she had immediately known that she wouldn't. Luke's error had been to assume that Ben Solo's future was predetermined, that his choice had been made. Her error had been to assume Kylo Ren's choice was simple. The future, she saw now, was a range of possibilities, which were constantly reshaped by the outcome of events that seemed minor and decisions that seemed small. Rey had learned that the Force was not her instrument, that, in fact, it was just the other way around. The Force wasn't finished with him, and that meant Kylo's life was not hers to take. And when he wakes up, it says, Rey had recovered first. She must have realized he was at her mercy, yet she'd let him live, almost as if she cared for him. Kylo only thinks this because he's still clinging to the hope that she does, even if he's trying to bury it. Kylo's last glimpse of Rey before she shuts the door to the Falcon on him is not a look of anger or resentment, but an echo of his previous plea for her to stay with him. In the novel, when Rey wakes up and sees Kylo lying in the throne room vulnerable, she can't bring herself to kill him. Did I repeat myself?
Yes, look at you.
Oh,
That's
whoops.
okay.
But Rey makes it clear that they have no future if he can't let go of the past. And I have the little Hercules if. If is good.
And that's why I love their relationships. She doesn't like it with his bull crap.
Oh,
But
yeah, that's...
we'll go into that later.
Yes.
You were going to say, though.
Which, this is the Last Jedi Religious. This is just a sequence of memes. Got, the Slaps Roof meme with Ryan Johnson and The Last Jedi, and he just says, this bad boy can fit so much fucking Reylo in it. And it says, Last Jedi, the religious standpoint, Reylo is absolutely everywhere. It's like a post-apocalypse where the apocalypse is Rey and Kylo wanting to snog every time they're on screen together. Ben Swallow, A Tale of Two Pectorals. What? Did Kylo just stand around with his shirt off hoping the Force bond would happen, or did he rip it off when he felt it starting? Like, can you even imagine?
Oh my god.
I feel it coming. Hold on. Let me disrobe.
Rey just stares at Kylo's
That's a little
chest
creepy
in
if
the
you think about it
elevator,
that way.
which I've got the picture right here.
Or maybe it was the opposite. Maybe he was like on the toilet and he's like, oh, Force vision coming up. Oh, get the pants on.
That's why they were so high. He was
Yeah.
in such an emergency.
Yep.
Pulled
Oh my
a
god.
little extra high.
Yeah.
Himself a wedgie.
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly.
Rey just stares at
I like
Kylo's
that.
chest in the elevator, like she definitely
can't accept it.
remembers Kylo Ren has an 8-pack, that Kylo Ren is shredded. Let's see, the thigh grab. It's infamous.
Yes,
That's
yes,
fine.
the
It's
thigh
It's
grab.
been mentioned before on the podcast. If you don't know about the thigh grab, you can Google
Just
it.
go watch The Last Jedi and then watch real closely during
I
the
do.
scene
But
where
you
they're
know what?
fighting
I
in the
remember
throne
this.
He
room.
grabs his
It's
thigh.
not just a thigh grab. She like starts as his hip and it runs down to his thigh, like as they're
It's
I
when
fighting.
she
have
leans back
missed
on him.
this.
during
It's
the
not.
fight.
It's not like her.
But I mean, come
flirtily
on.
reaching
Ross
in.
has
No.
been groping my knee this whole time. It's not a big deal.
It's while they're fighting, and almost the way she does it is it's more of
Steadying herself.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's more of that, and it's also more of because they're fighting back to back. So it's almost more of her being
So
like,
it
"Are you
starts
alright?"
out as
You know what?
utilitarian, and then she's like, well, since I'm here anyway.
I can't believe I'm on this side of it, but no, That grab was not necessary for what was happening there. That was totally her like, oh, here's my chance.
My other thought with that too, though, is that I think Daisy Ridley's about 5'7", 5'8".
Yeah, and he's like
Adam Driver is
6'3". He's 6'3".
He's a tall dude. So there is a part of me that wonders is like, because sometimes like if you watch in the other movies, they'll reach back and they'll be grabbing the person who's behind them either by like around the waist or just somewhere on their waist to like
it's
chase them
steadying
around their
herself.
waist to like make sure that they're behind them. So I wondered too if
Yeah.
it was just height. That just so happens that she was like grabbing back to find him, and then she's like, "Oh well, wow, that's really
Again,
stilted."
since I'm here anyway.
What a sculpted thigh. Yeah.
I wanted to talk real quick about the her waking up first and him being vulnerable.
Okay.
So, with Last Jedi, I can totally get where all the shippers are coming from. I don't take that particular moment as evidence of it. I don't add that to the pile. Because, so if I'm Rey, I'm trying to be the best Jedi I can be.
Oh yeah, no, this is about, I offered that agnostically. That wasn't her being like, oh, I need to spare him because I'm in love with him. It's being noble.
So, yeah, it's, and not even so much about being noble, it's, so if I wake up first, he's still there unconscious. My lightsaber is broken, so I have to use his, because that's the only other weapon I believe, except for the Praetorian Guard ones, but at that point it's all
You
the
mean
same.
the Power Rangers?
So, as I think about kind of the imagery of the scene, at least for me, it would be, so I've got to use his lightsaber to kill him. He's in, this is kind of it's a very unethical way to kill a person, right? Unconscious, and then with their own weapon. And then if you're gonna go and you turn on his lightsaber, it's the red lightsaber. It's trimmed in
evil.
black. I mean, just the whole image of like me trying to be, a good little Jedi. This looks like a descent into the dark side scenario.
Let's not forget that in this very movie, we've already shown that impulse to kill someone while they're asleep and defenseless is not a good thing and can lead to disaster.
Which is exactly why she acknowledges, oh, this was Luke's mistake, and I can't do the exact same thing now.
See, and that I could see, but again, that's less
in the book.
in the
Yeah,
book.
in the
Oh,
book.
she read,
Yeah.
That's less her in love with him as it is just her a good person.
Oh yeah, for sure. Let's see. Oh, more things that I just thought were funny. Mark Hamill called their relationship a romance, which we've already established. Mark Hamill's a horrible troll, but I just think it's really funny. Mark Hamill called the finger touch scene the sex scene where the fingers touch. Luke has a deleted line.
Ain't nothing sexier than a fingertip touch.
Hey, I will go down to my grave and say that scene had way more sexual tension than
Anything
Anakin's little like
between Anakin
touch
and
the
Padme.
awkward spot on your back because it's softer than the sand on Naboo scene. That scene they're trying to make sexual tension. I'm
Cringe.
like, homeboy, what are you doing? But
Yeah.
Rey and Kylo touching fingertips. I'm like, oh, is
bet
it
she's
hot
sweating
here?
now.
So what we've learned from this is if we ever want sex scenes in movies, we have Ryan Johnson write them and not George Lucas.
Exactly. Let's see. Oh, here's
Yeah,
a good
I'll
one.
give you that.
Absolutely perfect.
Here's a good one. Luke has a deleted line when Rey and him fight in the rain where he shouts, "You opened yourself to the dark side for a pair of pretty eyes." They filmed it. You can actually watch
That's
it.
where that came from.
Yep.
I've always wondered where that's coming from, and I'm like, they don't say that in the movies.
Yeah.
Because I think, isn't it on one of the deleted scenes on the disc?
Yep,
I think
yeah,
so. I
it
think I
is.
want to say I've seen it.
Yeah, you
Aren't
can look it up on
deleted
YouTube if you
scenes
just put that
not
line in.
Canon?
Technically not
Nope,
canon.
nope,
Yes.
they're not. It's just really funny that
But
it was
they did-
even
the fact
in
that
there
they
to
were gonna
begin with.
include it is,
Oh.
Yeah, I mean,
That's so
and that
sad
it didn't
that
even
they
get
cut that
deleted early on. He said it, and then they were like, eh.
Yeah, it's one that they recut because of time instead of content.
Oh!
I would argue that there's definitely a
Ow.
content reason to do that. Where it's like, well, do we want to be that overt about this?
Maybe not, especially when it's still up in the air enough. You know, they want these conspiracy theories. They want these podcasts. They make them money. Let's see. Vanity Fair is calling it the intergalactic will they won't they. This is real. This happened. I just thought that was really, really funny. Let's see. Then things for the atheist perspective. Kylo killed Snoke for power. Rey was just a means to an end, which I already put in here. I really don't think that's the case, but I hear people arguing it all the time. She gave him the epic shutdown, and then they freaking exploded the lightsaber. Leia admits her son is gone, even his own mother has given up on him, which I would say that it's more Leia in a low point, and Luke immediately corrects her after that, so I wouldn't say that. Blow that piece of junk out of the sky! She gave him the epic shutdown yet again in the Falcon. He still killed Han, plus a bunch of other people.
This is his bitterness phase after getting broken up with.
Yeah, exactly.
He's seriously, he's so heartbroken over it.
So he still killed Han. He's still a whiny piece of garbage. He still doesn't deserve her. And also, people saying I liked the 5 seconds when she was on screen with Poe. And I
like the meme you've got here.
Oh, thank you.
Nice to meet you, beautiful. I only go for 8 packs, and you're definitely a 6.
That is so perfect.
Thank you.
I don't think there's going to be anything going down between Poe and Rey. I just think that
you've got a whole movie that's basically saturated in Reylo, and then people are like obsessed with those 5 seconds when they meet.
We've discussed this. I just think that Oscar Isaacs is incapable of not smoldering.
When I totally agree.
Yeah, he's got a perma smolder.
I mean, have you
Oscar
ever
Isaacs
seen
and Poe Dameron. Poe Dameron is incapable of not flirting with anything with Tula.
Ex Machina is a movie with him and Domhnall Gleeson and Alicia Vikander in it. And it's like, every scene with Oscar Isaacs and Domhnall Gleeson in it, it's like, the movie is not telling us that anything is going on here. But if you're just watching this with the sound off and you're watching Oscar Isaacs with Domhnall Gleeson, well, there's clearly something going on here.
Poe reminds me of a girlfriend I had in one sense that, like, she would get mad at me, absolutely furious with me, and it was adorable. And I just couldn't, it was like, oh, you're so cute. It's like Poe could be chewing you out, like, absolutely livid, and it's like, dang, though, I'm turned on. Like, he could be vomiting, like, after, like, a bad hangover, and you'd be like, boy, he makes that look good.
Do you want
It doesn't make the sparkles go away.
I wouldn't say no.
Okay. Here's some extra stuff. This is my last stuff at the end that's kind of religious / agnostic. It kind of goes both. Reylo is frequently set up to be like Amidala, which is the ship name for Anakin and Padme. But in reverse, both in writing and in visuals. Whether or not it pans out fully is up for debate, obviously. To quote Jenny Nicholson, who's a YouTuber that's been mentioned on here multiple times, if you haven't watched Jenny's videos, she is a gift, and you're making mistakes. You gotta watch Jenny's videos.
We discovered in the last couple weeks Jenny's series that she did for Screen Rant, which is the Millennial Falcon.
Yeah.
And it's pretty entertaining.
No, Jenny's the best. But to quote Jenny, she said, he's the genetic end of the Skywalker line, and if he dies evil and childless, it will be a bummer. Even though these sequels have placed a lot of emphasis on dismantling the legacy of the Skywalkers, instead focusing on the individual and the idea of righteousness as a choice instead of a birthright, literally snuffing out the Skywalker line would still be a major power move. But so is killing Han Solo, so, anything could happen at this point. Anakin killed his comrades, basically killed Padme, tried to kill Obi-Wan, and later actually killed Obi-Wan, sort of. Killed innocent children, then ruled the galaxy as the leash dog of a tyrant for 20 years, then sacrificed himself to save his son at the very last minute. He was then apparently granted a newly reserved seat in Force Paradise. Pretty much instantly. We don't know exactly how many people Kylo has killed. The First Order has killed loads, but they weren't taking orders from Kylo at the time. He was their puppet, just like Han said. We don't even know for certain if Kylo killed the other students at Luke's Jedi school. Luke didn't see it happen. The only named character he's killed is Han, and it totally destroyed him. Killing named characters matters from a narrative standpoint. Everyone goes around killing stormtroopers liberally, even though at the very beginning, Finn is one of these kidnapped brainwashed warriors. Had Finn been the one to find Poe on Jakku, Poe would have shot him dead, and we wouldn't have blinked an eye. As long as he's in that stormtrooper armor, we don't care.
That is one of the great discomfitings of this series. That it's like, hey, we're going to show you that these stormtroopers are people, but then we're not ever going to treat them like that.
Exactly. Well, and it just really highlights the fact that these lines are growing a little bit more gray. It's a little bit arbitrary. So here's this. This is a piece of early concept art that was leaked back in 2014, along with a bunch of other concepts. Apparently it's based off of this reference image of one of Adam Driver's old photo shoots. I apologize. Obviously you can't see this on a podcast. If you Google Kylo and Rey concept art, it'll pop up. It's pretty distinct from others because he's holding her. It's an early concept of Kylo, and I'm assuming it's based off of after they've cast Adam Driver, but not after they've cast Daisy Ridley.
Yeah, that is not Daisy Ridley.
Because the woman is, so
she
obviously
looks a lot like the one in this photo shoot.
Yes, the artist referenced a photo shoot, which artists do all of the time. So they're told, oh, okay, so this guy is the guy we've got playing, Kylo Ren now. And they're like, oh, okay, I'll Google that guy. And this pops up. And it's a really weird reference image to be using if they're not even toying with the idea of this being romantic. Because, I mean, it can't have Daisy Ridley cast yet, because the girl he's holding, which is supposed to be Rey. I mean, well, there's really only one woman in the sequel series besides Rose, and I doubt it's Rose.
Well, but see, that's the thing, is that this woman's dressed in black, and we've never seen Rey anywhere near that.
Yeah.
So,
Maybe, well, he's holding her. I think that these are his gloves. Like, you can't
And
really
by
see what
holding,
she's wearing.
he's like
It's his
got
edgy
his arms
ex-girlfriend.
kind of wrapped around her shoulders, and
Yeah.
and
From behind,
it's a very
like
yeah
he's got
from
his
behind.
head right on her shoulder.
Yeah,
It's
it's
a very
very
intimate photo.
It's very Phantom of the Opera-y, and honestly, as an illustrator and someone who knows, a fair amount about concept art, they throw concepts around all the time. Like, they had early concepts of, like, Kylo looking like this weird cyborg monster thing. Like, weird stuff, okay? Especially this particular image is not in the official art book, for one thing. You can take that one way or another. Maybe it's, too important, gives too much away, so they're hiding it, or maybe it wasn't important enough that they didn't put it in.
Maybe
only
it's
like...
so obscure that they're like, why would we even put that in?
Yeah, well, like, only 15% of the art, maybe, that gets produced for a movie gets put in the art book. Okay, they make so much of it.
yeah, I'd say that's generous.
Yeah, exactly. So this, I mean, it's at least, it seems like it's a concept that they maybe even toyed with, because this was, I've even heard people trying to dismiss this as like fan art, but I was like, I think if it was a fan art thing or a fan art concept, they wouldn't have drawn the woman looking like that. They would have drawn it looking like Daisy Ridley.
Yeah.
Well, and while there's some clear romantic overtones on this, her expression is not romantic in the slightest in this. Like, she basically looks like she's standing there going, oh, gall, he's on my shoulder.
Yeah. Well, and granted, that's also the expression of the woman in the photograph.
Well,
So-
there's still a difference between their
But
expressions.
if that photograph
subtle
was
ones.
set up for the concept art, then
Well, no. The photograph is not set up for the concept art. What happens when you're a concept artist is they're like, hey, we've got this guy playing Kylo Ren now, and his name's Adam Driver. And the concept artist is like, oh, okay. So they Google it, and a bunch of stuff pops up, and they start pulling
So
reference
they
photos
literally
off
just
of Google.
pulled something from one of his old
Yeah,
photos.
this is an old photo shoot.
It had nothing to do with Star Wars.
Yeah,
Oh,
no. It
okay.
wasn't set up for Star Wars. Otherwise, yeah, that would be way suspicious. But no, this wasn't for that purpose. This is
now
just...
I'm curious. I'm like, hey, Adam, who's the girl, and what was that for?
yeah, I think it was just like a fashion photo shoot, and it was a more romantic
They
theme.
do look fashionable.
Yeah. So, it's
Seriously, I wonder.
it's
It's
just
a good looking shirt.
yeah, it's a strange image, and honestly, this is one out of like how many hundreds of concepts. Like, I can see this from a completely agnostic perspective, or even atheist perspective, where it's like concepts get tossed around and thrown out the window all the time.
Yeah.
This could have been like a moment's thing and then got thrown out, and it doesn't even need to be necessarily a good thing that
But
he's...
its existence at all is proof that someone, at least someone at some point, toyed with this idea.
Yes.
Like, we don't know if this was explicitly
And this-
ordered, like they wanted a shot that looks like that, or if this
And it was
artist was just like,
also-
oh, hey, I'll paint one that looks like this.
It was also leaked around the same time they were moving away from him being like a weird, like cyborg or like a very frightening villain to being a lot more humanistic. So there were certain character changes going on there. Yes, it is Reylo's plausible. That's what I'm saying. If it happens, I don't think it's going to be extremely shocking. It might be still I'm sure it'll piss plenty of people off, but it's not going to be the sort of thing where everyone's walking away from the theater. I mean, even like they did in The Last Jedi, being like, whoa! Like, I don't think it's going to be like that. If Reylo ends up happening, I think it's going to be more like, oh, they went that route then.
Yeah, right. There's clearly an avenue for this to happen.
Yes.
Yeah, no debate there. But what have you got for Last Jedi?
Okay.
Kelsey?
Okay.
Here we
So, I didn't have time this week to go through the movie and kind of get the force points, so I might have to ask you to help me keep track of which force memory I'm on.
Oh, right. Yeah,
Because
yeah.
you have them written out and I don't.
Yeah, because there are 5 of them total.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there were just kind of little aspects of each of them that I wanted to go through. I believe it's the first one or the second one. He looks at her and he says, he's wondering, he's like, I can't see your surroundings.
That's the first one.
He's like, that's the first one. He's like, I can't see your surroundings. He's like, I can only see you. And so my brain immediately goes, Are you sure? Do you just like, all you want to see
Yeah.
is her?
As a shipper, I remember sitting in the theater and being like, it was kind of a weird delivery of that line. And as a writer, as someone who likes to write as well, I would have definitely thrown that in as like, you know what this means.
That's
Wink,
like the most
wink, nod,
romantic-
nod to
That's
the
like the
people
most romantic line I've
shipping.
ever heard.
As an extremely how to go about I'm not even sure what the phrase is I'm looking for. As a person who's pretty logically methodical, I listen to that and I'm just like, yeah, that would be my first thing. Like, this is weird. Let me state some facts and figure out what's going on
Yeah.
here.
No,
I can't
it's
see your
more
background.
the highlighting.
Can you see mine?
The
No?
break
Okay.
between the line where he goes, I can't see. Can you see my surroundings? I can't see yours. Da da da. Just you. Yeah, exactly. Where it's like, okay, that was a little. I mean, it's a little heavy-handed. Obviously, it goes over some people's heads. So, but I remember sitting in the thinker
I
and
took it
thinking
like
that
Chris,
exact
where he's
same
just
thing.
like, okay, this is a new thing. I'm stating facts. I can't see anything but you. Can you see anything but me? No? Okay. Well, these are the parameters we're dealing with.
Yeah.
To be fair, social dynamics going over either of our heads would not be that unusual.
Yes, also that.
So you get that one. And then in all of these, again, the way he talks to her, the way his voice sounds, his voice is in a lower register. It's a much more softer. He what did you say?
I said it's beautiful.
It is beautiful. Well, you've heard Adam Driver's TED Talk about
Yeah.
I love listening to that TED Talk just to listen to how beautiful his voice is. Adam Driver, if you're listening, you have such a beautiful voice. Oh my goodness. Okay, anyway, fan moment over. So, and that's in such a sharp contrast to when he's talking to Poe or when he's talking to the villagers and he's like, kill them all. Such these sharp,
The supreme
harsh-
leader is dead.
Oh, I can't stand his voice. I'll just put that on the record. Ugh, nah. So, okay.
I'm already thinking of Twitter taglines.
Ooh, it's gonna be so good. So you get that one in the first one. And then when Kylo realizes that she is not connecting them, like, so he's like, you're not connecting us. He's like, the effort alone would kill you. And then he doesn't sit there and be like, okay, well, this is weird, so will you please get out of my head? Bye. And neither does Rey. And in every single one of those Force episodes, because what they have shown in the movies is that Rey is powerful enough to push Kylo out of her head.
I don't know if she could do this in this instance. I mean, this seems to be happening
Neither of them even know what's happening.
extremely
Right. Neither of them know what's
involuntarily. Well, and especially, but in this... Okay, go ahead.
But
I talk too much.
my point with this too is that they both could have chosen to just say, either try and push each other out of their heads,
Or
and
just
then if they're
ignore
like,
each other?
yeah, or just ignore each other. That every time they get
But it's
that little,
weird. I mean, like, I feel like not having it happen and not acknowledge it is just, like, so difficult. I think that's the point of the scene where she's, in the third one where she's walking along
Well,
and then
straight up, can we not do
do this?
this?
And he goes, I would rather not either. And then she goes, okay, well, but
But that's what I'm saying is that even then, if they both did not want to connect with each other and both did not want to explore what was going
a
on,
certain degree of this is happening.
yeah, that they're both choosing to engage in those conversations. They have no control that the Force is connecting their minds. They have no control of that. They don't know where it's coming from until Snoke is like, I was
don't
connecting
know,
your
though.
minds.
Well, she makes an
Because-
effort to understand him in that third one.
Well,
where
there's
she
that, too.
deliberately asks. So yeah, that's her being curious and puzzled and needing to know. She almost acts the way she asks it though. She's like attacking him. She's like, "Why did you kill your father? Give me an honest answer."
Well, yeah,
she's
there's
like,
that. But I'm
hammering
just
him.
thinking they both acknowledge we're not in control of this communication, right? That like we're being forced to,
Talk.
talk to each other, right? Or
Yeah,
to
connect.
view each other. So I'm going, if I'm Rey and I now have like an unapproved but unavoidable FaceTime going with Kylo,
So much.
I'm not going to like
Forced
practice or talk strategy or walk around the island to give him any clues. I'd be like, well, I'm going to sit here and give you as little information about my surroundings as possible. So we can sit here in silence, or I can try to redeem you. Which
Or
is
even starting out,
motivation that she
berate
has.
you. Like,
Be like,
murderous
yeah, you're an awful, human being. Which I think is a fair reaction. Like, again,
Oh, yeah,
if
for
your
sure.
FaceTime automatically
like,
turns on
yeah.
and it's your worst
No, there was
enemy,
nothing surprising to me. I mean, the Force bond was
yeah,
surprising
but again,
in general,
it's
but
just
their
one of those
interactions
things where I'm like
were expected.
holding this up as, oh, they interacted. Clearly, there's something there. For me, is like, no,
No.
like put people around each other and they will interact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that's just how humans work.
even if
Not
you
how
don't
romance
like,
works.
even if you don't like the person,
Yeah.
And
I've
that's
had
why,
plenty
like,
of
her first
coworkers that I
reaction-
sat near and didn't
Yeah.
like. That doesn't mean I didn't interact with them.
Yeah. And that's why, like, the first
That's the thing,
reaction...
though, is that's what I'm going to agree with what you just said. Is that there are plenty of people who I don't like. There are people in the theater sometimes who I don't like, and unless I absolutely have to communicate with them,
It's cold shoulder.
I do not interact with them at all. And so that's what I'm saying. That
So, but that's what I'm saying is, like, you
also
walk into an
choosing.
elevator and you're stuck there with them. You don't even go, oh, hey, hi.
No, not if I don't like the person.
Yeah, I wouldn't
And
do
they
that.
don't either?
But it's not even an elevator
have you been in
situation.
an elevator?
I was about to say, that's
Yeah,
just
that's
basic
how it
elevator
works.
101.
Okay, well,
But that's what I'm saying, is it's not an elevator. It's
No,
more
I mean,
like...
Yeah, it's not an
Unless I-
elevator.
It's more
but
like
it is.
we're
It's
going to
just
put
like,
you two in a room, even if you don't like each other, like, there will come a point where it's kind of like, so...
Yeah, and it's not just a matter
you
of,
know?
like, they
Maybe I'm
don't like
cold-hearted,
each
'cause
other.
There are
Oh,
a few
yeah,
people,
no, I'm
there are a few
actually...
people on this earth. You stuck me in a room with them for 12 hours. I still will not say a word.
Oh,
to
yeah,
them.
no, I'm like, the best interaction I can have with this person is absolutely none. I'll say nothing.
Or
Like-
I will look at them and say, I'm not saying anything to you. You go occupy yourself in that corner and don't touch me.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that...
but if they then start talking back to you...
especially
I don't know.
things that are kind of provoking you, like the fact that he turns around and says, "You will bring Luke Skywalker to me," and she just gives him like this scowl, and then
love it.
immediately starts gloating that she found Luke.
Yeah. Well, and I'm just gonna pull a random example out of my hat. Rocket Raccoon and Yandu get locked up together in Guardians of the Galaxy
Yeah.
2. They could have not talked to each other because they don't like each other at that point, but they chose to talk to each other. Clearly, this is a romance. Like, that does not follow. The one does not follow the other.
We're not even arguing. Clearly, this is a romance.
No.
It's clearly this is
I'd watch
potential
that
for. It's intimacy, because I mean, honestly, that is where Yondu and Rocket's relationship goes.
that
at the
is
end,
where.
is
But again,
that it is
the
intimacy.
fact
It's
that
just
they
not
choose to
immediately
talk
romance.
to each other bears no significance to whatsoever to their character. Like, it's not. They're not choosing to talk to each other because, oh, I feel a need to talk to you, or even because, well, I could just ignore you from now on, but the fact that I chose not to means that I'm interested.
See, okay,
It's
so-
like, no, they're in a room
Wait,
and they talk.
hang on, I want to hear what
That's
Ross
it.
says.
Yeah, I'm halfway in between. I don't see this as a they like each other thing, but it's also odd that they're not actively trying to break the connection.
Well,
Rather than even just ignoring
Okay,
each
thank
other,
you. There we go.
it's this is a forced thing.
I don't think it is at all odd for Kylo. Kylo spent the last movie trying to bring her to the dark side of the Force and immediately starts talking to her in the same way here. Like, Kylo's mission
is
has
it-
been to bring her to the dark side of the Force the entire time.
But still, even if it is just Rey being a Force person, you would think, oh, this is a Force thing happening.
Well,
in learning the Force, why am I not trying to use
I
the
think
Force
Chris
to stop
is
it?
right. Kylo would have no motivation to try to break the connection, right? He's like, oh, cool, I'm talking to Rey again. Awesome. Right? And
Except
Rey,
that she
doesn't
sliced
Rey...
up his
Well,
face.
he doesn't.
Yes.
He doesn't
care.
But he doesn't care. Exactly.
always-
That's
he
what I think.
always
That's kind of
wanted that
weird.
Skywalker.
Yeah, exactly.
It makes me look real cool.
but
It makes
with-
me look more like Grandpa Anakin.
Yeah.
But with Rey, doesn't she say something kind of like, oh, how are you doing this? Like, crap. Like, to me, it feels like she's trying to get out, and then Kylo is like, I don't know how this is happening.
No, she
Well,
doesn't.
and then
she's
and
just
also-
like,
And
oh,
also, in that first connection too, if you look at him the whole time, he is all eyes on her. He is facing her.
I mean, granted,
and he
he's
is
fascinated
all-
by the fact that a person is just kind of basically magically manifested in front
that
of him.
too. But
so it's kind of
I
difficult
do
not to be
agree
like,
with you
what?
100%. Kylo has absolutely no motivation to break that connection, and he is just like, okay. Like, let's,
Well, but here also, Ross. So you've got this happening. Someone you don't want to talk to. You want to break off these random unsolicited FaceTime calls. What do you do first?
You try and break off the call.
Well, how? Like, you literally don't know how this is happening. The first thing you have to do is understand what's happening if you're going to break it off. This is not a like, oh, hey, you randomly appeared in front of me. It's like, well, how did that happen? Because you can't break it off until you can't just go, well, I don't want this to happen. Let me try really hard.
But hold on, but for that first minute or
wish
two,
the
you're right, and
listeners
that's
could have
exactly what they
seen
do. I don't have a
Chris's
problem with
face
that.
in that moment.
But once you kind of realize that it's not him, or even if it is him and he's lying to you, then that would be the point where you're like, okay, well, I got to try and get myself out of this. I think you're right for the first 5 minutes.
Well, so for the first interaction and
Sure.
then the first part of the second one.
Sure.
Like, I mean,
Yeah, I think that's about how
yeah.
long it would take.
So for the first part, they immediately take the actions that would eventually potentially lead to breaking this off if they chose to. Like, because she's also like, stop it. don't do this. And he's like, whoa, it's not me. And then what else is she going to do? She knows jack about the Force.
Yeah.
But even to make the attempt.
Yeah, she doesn't know about
but again, you keep saying make the attempt. So what? She's supposed to close her eyes and feel really hard?
No, it's once in the middle of the second Force bond, once he says, once he makes this admission that he agrees that he's a monster, she is intrigued and basically in the game here. Like, they're not they don't continue puzzling this or trying to break it off. He makes this admission of vulnerability, and immediately she's interested in that vulnerability.
Yeah, she's understanding that maybe there's more to him than that. But again, this isn't I'm not saying that there isn't a relationship progressing of any sort here.
Okay.
All I'm saying is that saying the fact that they don't immediately try and get away from each other in every single way is evidence that maybe there's something here that has nothing to do with anything. Again, that would be like saying Yondu and Rocket talk to each other instead of not talking to each other when they could have not talked to each other. So therefore, they clearly have a thing for each other just somewhere. There's just a little bit there. Like, no, there's not.
Oh, and a certain degree of this is, again, Community, the quote from Community, the two white kids going to school together just seems right. This is two white kids got the Force together just seems right.
Yeah, but again, and again, I'm not saying that there's nothing between them. I'm not saying any of that. All I'm saying is that look, they could
correlation
have not
doesn't
talked
equal
to
causation.
Well,
in
it's
this
just
case.
you can't prove a negative. It's like they could have not talked to each other, but they chose to talk to each other. It's like everybody could have not. You know what else they could have done? Like there's the list of things they could have done that they didn't choose to do is astronomically long. It's like, oh, they could have hurled insults at each other, bitterly, angry, shrieking, but they didn't. You're making something
the one
out of
is
nothing.
as ridiculous as the other.
Yeah, that's what I'm just saying.
Yeah, no, and romance, okay, any degree of romance is always going to be arbitrary, because there are certain things that I've watched that I've been like, oh yeah, I ship it, like how can you not ship it? And some people like vehemently hate it.
Sure.
So yes, shipping is difficult to argue because it is this arbitrary. It's almost like arguing artwork, where you can line certain things up that definitely make it objectively good or bad, for sure. I think, all artists could understand that. But there is always this weird space where, subjective opinion fits in, where it gets gray. Like, I don't think that everything is gray, when everyone's like, oh, art is entirely subjective. No, I didn't go to school for art to be entirely subjective, right? But it is definitely something that happens, especially in romance. Like, you'll have certain romances that are, like, world famous because everyone's like, oh my gosh, their chemistry was so moving. And, other people will be like,
like me and Ross.
I mean, well, that's how I feel. Well, like, when I watched The Notebook, The Notebook has made so many women swoon, and I don't get it. I don't know. I've tried watching it. I don't get it.
I'm so glad you said that.
I don't get it.
That one's...
Again, and there's going to be variance, there's going to be all that, but I just keep coming back to, like, if we're holding this up as proof, it's
not necessarily
it's like, look, they didn't do this. That could mean a million things. Like,
well, and I think the whole point of this episode is not to hold any one particular point as proof, but it's just the correlation of.
No, but that's what I'm saying. That there's a lot of things that I listen and go, yeah, that's fair. Like, personally, I look at the thigh grab and I'm just like, obviously that's just a thing that happened while they were filming and nobody thought anything of it because why would they?
Like,
the
is
fact
grabbing
that
my
it's
thigh.
in the movie does not mean it was deliberately put there as an indication of something.
I mean, and
anymore.
even if it was, maybe it was Rian Johnson just going through the film and was like, "Oh my
That's
gosh,
hilarious.
that's funny. I'm putting that in."
It's no more an indication of intent than the fact that a Starbucks cup showed up in an episode of Game of Thrones means that they were deliberately trying to advertise Starbucks. Like, no. It was literally just a thing that happened in the background that nobody caught.
Although, okay, there are certain things with acting, because it's difficult because with actors, there's a lot of stuff that happens purely by chance, and there's a lot of stuff that happens very, very purposefully. And, okay, I have heard this one before. Granted, heard this. I didn't look this up to see if this was true or not. I simply read it, from some stan on the internet, right? So,
yeah,
that could mean a lot of things. But apparently, during the hand touch scene, Adam Driver asked if he had ever, or his character, if Kylo Ren had ever kissed a girl before.
I have heard that before.
Yeah, he asked that question.
That actually does kind of make sense.
Yeah, and so it's just him kind of gauging like how nerve-wracking.
How nervous does he, like, how awkward is this for him?
It's actually
Yeah.
really good that he asked that.
They should have
because
made
that
it
will
like
give
a
him
real awkward teenager and
huge
had him do
clue
like the
into
pinky
character
crawl,
development.
you know.
And
Yeah.
it did, and that's why he played it the way he did.
Anyway, I apologize because I know I get hung up on this a lot, but I just get a lot of times where I'm like, look, you can present to me evidences that I can look at and go, yeah, that's pretty clearly a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I cannot deny that the hand touch is pretty clearly a demonstration of something that could become romantic.
Mm-hmm.
Never would deny that. But you can also pull things out that it's like, that's not
Arbitrary.
the movie, that's you. Like,
I would agree because I've told this story before when I was an undergrad in a history class that we were talking about Hildegard of Bingen, this nun, and there's like, oh, you know, this one girl in the class is like, oh, she's clearly a lesbian, look at this, you know, she says she like loves her daughters or whatever in the nunnery, and I'm like, sure, but also that language is fairly common for nunneries and for abbesses to refer to their, the love of Christ. I'm like, the default position is that they're not, and if you're going to prove it, you've got to prove it pretty unequivocally, and that is not evidence that is conclusive, in my opinion, given how widespread it is. And so a lot of the Reylo stuff, that's kind of how I'm looking at it. I'm going, the default position is that they're not in love, right? They don't know each other from Adam, and they're just meeting each other in episode 7. So the default position is that these people don't have a relationship, so if you're going to prove that there's one, it's got to be pretty dang conclusive. Now, episode 8, of course, does shift it.
Yeah,
much
where
more
it
in
shifts
that.
it into conclusivity, where there is clearly something happening.
Right.
Yeah,
But
which,
Whether or
like
not
I
it's
said,
romantic.
I wasn't super invested in this until The Last Jedi. Like, I remember enjoying it as a guilty pleasure
Yeah.
during Force
But when
Awakens.
Once I saw Last Jedi, I was
Yeah.
like, this is a thing, it's happening. And
Yeah.
I want more,
But
and
it's
I wanna
kind of
see
an
how.
Occam's razor sort of thing, where it's like, well, the simplest explanation for why they choose to interact when instead of avoiding each other is because if they don't, we don't have a story.
Yeah.
Like, period, end of thing. Like, that is why they interact here. It doesn't matter if it would be theoretically more plausible for them to do otherwise. If it is at least acceptably plausible for them to interact, then they will, because that is what the story demands. And that, as far as I'm concerned, is the reason why they interact, because there's no evidence to suggest that they did it because, well, latent romantic feelings that I've had ever since we met.
Well, I think one thing I wanted to mention when I came on this is that it's so interesting. If Reylo's the plan, if that's actually the grand master plan is this relationship, that it's supposed to be reverse Amidala from the beginning, and it's her like pulling him out of the dark side and back to the light, as people have theorized. It's weird because it's both so bold that it's almost totally out of left field and also problematic in a lot of ways that people have debated quite a bit. Him calling her nothing is, seen as like him demeaning her. Personally, I think that he just isn't the best communicator.
Or how about girls fall for a-holes all the time, so he's treating her like garbage.
Yeah.
But I've got some on that, though. I've got some on that. That's
Wait,
the point I was going to make
I
with
think,
Last
okay,
Jedi.
what I want to say, though,
You go
is
ahead.
that it's interesting because it's both entirely expected and also so shocking. Because if you ask me, okay, what's the direct-to-video Disney sequel? I'm gonna be like, okay, well, you got a legacy kid. It's gonna be the kids, of the previous main character's kid. It's likely to be male because that's kind of the world we live in. So it's likely
Well,
to
if
be
it's a
male.
direct-to-video Disney sequel, it's probably female.
Maybe. We'll see. Because they're all the Disney
Usually a
princesses,
princess,
right?
yeah.
But, we still have Lady and the Tramp, Scamp's Big Adventure, or whatever it's called.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness, is that a thing?
Oh, yeah.
Whoa, what a reference!
We got Lion
That was
King
deep.
2. The Lion King 2 has Simba's daughter, but it does have Scar's sons.
Yes, which
Well,
is
let's just
actually
talk
this
about
Which is
one.
actually probably the
Lion
closest
King.
thing to this.
Yeah,
No
exactly.
kidding!
No, hang on. But, so
Lion
if
King
you're
2 is
going...
just more Shakespeare and Disney got
Yeah.
married and had a baby.
Yeah. If you're going to go direct to video Disney sequel, you're going to have the legacy character, likely a son. He's going to have, the girl who's his love interest. Basically the only girl will be his love interest because that's how it works. She won't really have very much interest besides being his love interest. She might have kind of like this tragic backstory, but it's kind of ham-fisted in there just so that, they can make a sequel and make money. And then basically all the side characters are assisting to the plot of the legacy character. They're just there to guide or be comic relief or to be whatever. That's the most boring, basic, direct-to-video Disney sequel I can think of. And the weird thing is, if this is a romance, then that means that it was the legacy character and basically the main girl, not the only girl, because we do have, Rose and Holdo and, others, but the primary girl is his love interest. But it's told from an incredibly creative perspective that we're going on this like, oh yeah, well, we're going to tell it from her point of view. Actually, she's going to be the main character. And that's going to be her whole thing, is that she wants to belong. She wants a family. Because if Reylo does happen, that would line up with Rey's character in certain ways. That she has wanted a family, she has wanted to belong, and she's a nobody. If she married into the most famous family in the galaxy, that would be an interesting fate.
But I look at that and I'm like, that would be the worst. That would be the worst, because it's just like all of these other romances where it's like, oh, I'm not good enough, but then I get the prince, and that gives me value.
But that's not what's happening.
No,
because of what happened in The Last Jedi, that she rejects him.
Yeah,
it's
this is a step up, but I would say it would be better to just not go that direction at all.
And a lot of people would argue that as well, that it's better that she just leaves him behind because it shows her, being her own strong, independent woman. But, I'd say that she's done that well enough. I don't think that we're going into The Rise of Skywalker with Rey still being as attached to Kylo as he will be to her. Because she shut the door on him. She was like, no, that's what I said. If you are not going to change us, this whole thing, I want Ben Solo. I don't like Kylo Ren. If you're going to keep being Kylo Ren, this isn't happening. I'm going to shut the door on you.
See, this is the point of why this is one reason too that you brought it up, and I'm just going to tack it on, is why I absolutely love their relationship. So, real quick, if you go look at Anakin and Padme's relationship, the whole time Anakin is like, hey baby, I got issues. And instead of Padme being like, that's like really bad, and there's a lot of red flags here, can we talk about this? No, all she does, she's like, oh, I'm so sorry. Do you want me to stay here and scratch your head? Oh, I'm so sorry.
Well, no.
Do you want me to stay here and make your babies? Oh my gosh, that just sucks. Okay? What Rey does throughout their entire relationship, and I was going to save this for the very, very last time that they see each other in Last Jedi, but we're talking about it now, is that she closes the door in his face.
Yeah.
And
she should.
She is begging him to come back to the light.
He doesn't.
And she begs him in the elevator of, I will help you. This isn't good for you. The whole time, basically, Rey saying, I'm not putting up with your issues and your problems. They are there. They are valid. She doesn't go into denial. She's not sitting there, again, doing what Padme does, which is, Anakin? Oh my goodness. Anakin did that? Oh my gosh. I can't imagine.
She's not even angry with him once she finds out he's apparently killed younglings. She's just like, come back. I'm like, whose wife are you? I would be so mad.
Oh my gosh. No, and that's why I shipped Anakin and Padme so hard until the third one came out, and I went, oh, never mind. That's a really bad relationship.
Oh, really? I was always like, oh, they're cringy. Cringy.
But granted, I was 14 when the second one came out, and I was in my crush phase of life. And everybody goes to that, and so anything and everything love, I was just like, oh, that's so sweet. Oh, yeah. And now I'm just like, ugh. But anyway, the point is with Rey and Kylo is that the whole time she is not putting up with it. She's not allowing his issues and his problems and his emotional manipulation into her life. She sits there and she says, you can join me on these parameters that you're going to be a good boy and we're going to get you some help. Or if not, okay then, bye.
Yeah.
And she shuts the door and she crushes him and she doesn't want to. And she wants to be with him.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say that as a friend and as romantically, or as for lack of a better word, partners in the Force. Let's just put it that way, right?
The yin and the yang.
Yeah. She doesn't want to lose him in her life. And you can see it on her face as she closes the door. You can see that disappointment on her face of, ow, dang it, boy. We had some going here, man. You blew it.
Yeah.
And so that's why I love their relationship, and that's why I'm all for it, is because Rey doesn't put up with his problems. She acknowledges them, she validates them, she sees them, and then instead of saying, oh, that's fine, you can just sit there with your problems and torture me. No, she's saying, no, you have issues, and if we get those resolved, welcome into my life. If not, then get out and stay out.
Yeah, and I think that is a really important point going on here. And
I love seeing Hollywood. It all give us any healthy interpersonal dynamics.
Right?
Where it's like, hey, look, this is unhealthy. This is how you should respond to that behavior.
Yes.
Just cut it off.
Yeah,
And I'll
exactly.
even go so far as to say, along with that Rey kind of recognizes... this is kind of more just a headcanon theory I have. Personally, I think Finn gets a little codependent on her. Because he's all like, oh my gosh,
No,
a
that's
woman. I've
legit.
never talked to one
Yeah.
before. I've never had one in my life. And you're the only one, and you're beautiful, and I just want to, like, save you. And I think Rey's kind of like, dude, back up, man. Like, yeah, friends.
I think that she
We're
cares
good.
about Finn very genuinely.
She does.
But there's a reason that Finn's arc in The Last Jedi is learning to not be codependent on Rey, basically for
Learning
his
to
character.
have a life outside
and
of
that's what
Yeah.
I love about Rey so much is that even with Finn, she's like, oh, dude, like, take care of yourself, man. And especially in Force Awakens when he's about to run off with the traitors, she's like, oh, like, please don't go. Like, that's really sad.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, though, throughout all of Last Jedi, she cares about Finn. She wants to know where he's at. She wants to know that he's okay.
Yeah.
But she's not like, guys, where's Finn? Where's Finn? Oh my gosh, is he alive? No,
Yeah.
the whole time, she's spinning it with Kylo.
When I watched Force Awakens, I remember thinking that I was like, oh, it's Finn Rey. And I remember being a little confused that everyone was, like, so on board with Reylo. Because, like I said, while I enjoyed Reylo as kind of like a trash shippy thing, I was also like, okay, it's not going to happen, though. Because I was like, oh, well, Finn Rey is the thing that's happening. That's kind of what makes it obvious. And then you have the sequel that kind of, does what the original trilogy did. Where it's like, well, it's Luke and Leia. Well, maybe not. Actually, it's going to be Han. And then you have women writing in like, oh, that's so horrible. She's loving the bad boy. It's literally just happening again. Like, that's what's going on here. And it's interesting because,
You're
on
saying
the
we need
one
to let the
hand,
past die.
I think that, like I said,
You have to.
yes, at this point, where she, I said, basically Kylo knows her better than anyone else does because of this isolation she had. At this point in this movie, he's the one who knows her the best. Even Finn, with their bond, it was a very surface.
Finn wasn't able
Yeah.
to swim around in her head
Yeah.
using the Force and see
And
all of her
not
inner
to
thoughts
say-
about the ocean and the
Yeah,
island.
not to say that
I also
her and
suspect
Finn...
that Finn doesn't have like a 12-pack hidden under that shirt.
Yeah. And not to say that
He's
Finn...
got something.
Yeah.
Jonathan Boyega
It's
is
pretty
a
beautiful.
beautiful man.
Yeah.
And he got in real good shape for these movies.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we don't get to see the results.
I'm sure we'll see it next time.
Well, and not to say...
We're going to have a shot of him and Poe working out together.
Oh
beautiful.
my
glorious.
gosh.
And not to say that, her and Finn cannot grow to have that level of intimacy. Oh, no, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that this movie is, as far as the screen time goes, all of the preoccupation is with building their dynamic.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
but
I
also, enforced intimacy does not equal romance.
No, it doesn't.
So,
It doesn't, but I also have a mile-long list that maybe could be for this episode, but I don't think we have time, as to why and how Rey is so not romantically interested in Finn in every sense of the word.
I
She
don't really
loves
Friend
him.
zone.
She looks at him like a brother, I think.
Serious
Yeah.
friend zone. She loves him, and the English language is stupid. We only have one word for
I
love.
can prepare for the next one if you want. That it's like, no, you can literally do all the things you're doing with Kylo. Like, but look at this scene. Oh, and remember this scene where she's talking to Chewie and she's like, tell him, and then Chewie says something and she gets all, yeah, do that. Because she's all dreamy over Finn. Like, she wasn't, and that's ridiculous, but you could interpret it that way if
Yes.
you were pre-inclined to.
But
Perhaps.
what I'm saying is I've got that mile-long list of how I've interpreted them two, is that, again, kind of saying, the English language is stupid. We only have one word for love.
Yeah,
It's
did
love.
you watch the Screen
And-
Prism video? That they've got, okay, they've got one that they are actually arguing against Reylo, but they bring up all of the Greek terms for love. And the video is called Why Love Never Works Out in Star Wars. And it's basically talking about how most of the romantic relationships in Star Wars are essentially doomed because the focus goes to the friendships and platonic relationships, and those are the ones the Force tends to favor and propagate, that they are more beneficial. Although I would say that that's a little difficult to pin down as well, because here the thing is that honestly Obi-Wan was just as guilty of attachment with Anakin. He knew about Anakin and Padme. When he
Obi-Wan did.
when he says to him, Anakin's the father, or he says to Padme, Anakin's the father, isn't he? He knows. And he didn't.
He knew about them from the beginning, from day one.
And he didn't because of his loyalty, because of his friendship, because he was just as guilty of attachment
He's
in
a
the
terrible
friendship
trainer.
as everything else.
And just kind of the point I'm making is just that just everything between Finn and Rey, she cares about him. She wants him to be happy. She wants him to be healthy. She does ask. She's like, ask about Finn. Is he all right? Because she knows he was injured because Kylo sliced him up. Mm-hmm. And she wants him to have a good future because she knows that he just has literally, like, almost overnight redeemed himself from being a stormtrooper to being as much of a human being as he can. Mm-hmm. There's nothing in those reactions that
I would agree with
she wants to.
I would say
with my brother.
Again, I'm saying there is nothing because you are too focused on the other.
I would side with my brother on this, that if Finn and Rey happens, I don't want it. I don't feel like their chemistry's great. I don't think it would be great.
But I don't think it would be any more out of left field than them making Kylo and Rey work. They've clearly done enough legwork to set it up.
I think that it's a little bit more lazy just because it's kind of like, oh, well, the guy and the girl that are the most obviously there. It is kind of the direct-to-video Disney sequel where they're trying to basically take that and make it as interesting as possible.
I guess
with Kylo and Rey, I feel like.
I don't see anything of Rey being romantically interested in Finn. I do have a mile-long list also, though,
of why Finn is into Rey.
Finn is embarrassingly into Rey.
And so...
You got a boyfriend? Cute boyfriend?
You got a boyfriend? that list is so long and so blunt and so very detailed. And so I will agree. I love arguing both sides of the coin at the same time. And people say you can't argue both sides of the coin.
Playing the devil's advocate.
I'm like, yes, I can. At the same time, I agree almost in a way that it would be like a lazy cop-out. Just like, well, he's already into her. And then she's magically like, you're here,
no,
I'm here.
I think they have reasons to be together. It's just that in the first one, they're kind of the main guy and main girl. And it's just kind of like, easy to throw them together.
That's normal,
yeah, it's default, it's normal. So if they ended up together, it would be kind of like, well, yeah, I mean, I guess that's kind of default and normal.
Although Jonathan Boyega's hair can't come.
Have you seen his hair in the third one, though? I like his hair.
It looks pretty good.
Those images.
Yeah.
I think we're going to get some
And
sweet
plus,
style.
John Boyega has the most flawless skin of any man.
God.
It's
Isn't
like
it
glowing.
so
It's perfect.
Just creamy smooth.
Yes.
It really is.
Yeah.
So, the one thing I've been wanting to say for a little bit, we keep talking about how a lot of these little evidences that we're coming up with or seeing or not seeing may or may not mean what we think they mean, right? Okay, so all of it depends upon what actually ends up happening. If
that's true.
Reylo,
Reylo is predicated on redemption.
I thought you were going to say
Well,
it
hold
all
on.
depends on a certain point of view.
even regardless of why they get together, if they get together, then yes, all of these things are true. Because the Supreme Chancellor Palpatine, or I'm sorry, whatever they called him at the time, talking to Anakin about Darth Plagueis and the whole, creating life and everyone taking that to
Chancellor Palpatine.
Chancellor at the time, yeah, whatever he was. That whole discussion about how when Palpatine is telling the story about Darth Plagueis the Wise, and he says to Anakin, even creating life, and then there's the may or may not have been like a wink, wink, nudge, nudge that everyone's like, "That's
music,
me.
the
I
Twilight
created
Zone
you."
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That literally holds just as much water as anything we've talked about here today.
No.
Absolutely.
Okay,
And now
maybe
it
I'm
holds
just-
more water because they've actually canonized
No,
it.
okay, first of all,
Okay, wait. I'm sorry. I don't understand what that has to do with Reylo.
So the point of Palpatine's story was to say, yes, you can use the dark side stuff to save Padme, but then he throws in this throwaway stuff about Plagueis could even create life, and everyone took that line and was like, oh, that must mean Palpatine is Anakin's father. That's such a huge jump with what we actually knew at the time. It's just as big of a jump as any of this that we've talked about today.
it's really not.
It is.
It's
So
really not. Like, now, see, a lot of the things here, sure, I would say that is totally on par with a lot of the more overt things that happen between them. But what I'm saying is, what you're comparing would be like me watching those original ones and saying, look at the way that Palpatine looks at Anakin in that scene. Clearly he's got a thing for Anakin. That would be arbitrary.
I mean, he did have a thing for Anakin, and he wanted
no,
to
clearly
pull him
he
down
has
to the
a
dark
romantic
side.
thing for Anakin. That would be arbitrary.
I think that you're upset about it because of the very virtue that it's romantic.
No, I'm upset because a glance is meaningless. A glance can be interpreted a billion different ways, and it is not actually evidence. And the thing I took issue with that you said, I'm not even sure if you meant it here.
Yeah, but what about the context? I would
No,
agree.
there can be some context, but I'm not even. But I'm saying a lot of what you're saying is It has no context. Like, it's just, look, they interacted. It's the look up and downs. You're saying a look up and down is clearly a romantic thing in every single instance that it happens here. And I'm like saying that's just how people look at each other. Most people, if you watch people interacting, I'm not going to say that I've creepily gone to places and just sat and watched people interact.
You look between their eyes and their mouth over and over.
But what I'm saying is if you look at people meeting in a public place, most of them will look each other up and down. That's just a standard thing that people do to each other. Mm-hmm. And we always give it this huge romantic connotation of, oh, he's checking her out. But it's like, you'll look at your parents that way. If you run into your parents at a place, you'll probably look them up and down briefly without even thinking about it, because that's just what people do. It only becomes romantic when you decide you want it to be romantic. Well, and that's what I'm saying. So, well, hold on a second. The thing that you said, Ross, that I took issue with in particular is it'll depend on how it turns out in the last one. Then we'll find out whether or not this was true. No, it doesn't become true retroactively. If Kylo and Rey somehow get together at the end of 9, it will not retroactively make every single glance he ever gave her super thirsty, and he was clearly plotting this from the start.
Well, would we want to give some credibility to acting, though? To say, like, okay, well, we knew this was going to be a romance, so we were kind of playing things out that way, because we knew that's where it was headed, so we didn't want to do anything that we thought would steer away from that. We kind of wanted to lead people into it.
Possibly. If both of them come out afterward and say that, then all right, well, apparently they were putting that in there, and I just misread everything.
Wasn't that what we were arguing, though?
Yeah,
no, wasn't that what he was arguing?
That's literally what I did with Palpatine being Anakin's father. That I literally had to eat my words on the podcast because that comic book came out.
It comes down to just how many hoops is the thought process jumping through to get from A to B.
What I'm saying is listing out all these things as evidence is not an indication that these things are all clear evidence. It is an indication that you want them to be clear evidence.
Ooh, but without them, we wouldn't have a juicy debate.
That's all I am saying. All I am saying is there is a difference between, hey, look at this, and that is clear, and, hey, look at this, it's just me reading things. That's all I am saying.
All right.
Okay.
Are we all Reylo'd out? Did we do it?
Yeah.
I'm Reylo'd out, and that's good because it's about time for us to be done.
Yeah. I was about to say,
so we mentioned at the beginning of the episode some other ships to talk about: Anakin and Padme, Obi-Wan and Satine, different things like that. I think we're going to do another episode where we talk about those.
Please.
But for now, I think that's going to be it for this episode. So be sure to follow us on Twitter at More Civilized. Join our Facebook group, A More Civilized Podcast. And Chris, you got to...
Well, Ross usually...
Ross.
What are you doing, man?
See what I'm saying?
Because we're still out of order.
I know.
Get used to the new order. So, speaking of the group, and our shout-out for this week, do you guys know who I'm going to shout out?
I don't.
Because I said in the last episode if he did what I wanted him to do.
It's Steven.
It's Steven.
It was Steven actually going through and finding all those lists and things of stuff we had talked about.
Those were so great, though. They gave me some ideas for some other episodes and stuff. Good work, Steven.
Thank you, Steven.
Way
to fact check.
Way to go.
Way to be, man.
He is.
So, and then if you'd like to speak with me, you can find me on Twitter at Mr_Arstar.
Yep. Kelsey, do you have anything you want to plug?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram at K_the_Jedi. If you want to see tons of stuff about my personal life, but also I'm a professional makeup artist. So if you want to see some of my makeup art there, Also, currently I work for Health Center Sandy, which is the big one off the freeway, and I'm working on Freaky Friday the Musical, which is a super fun musical. It's the original. It's as corny as it sounds. So you all should go see it because I'm on Pinterest with my Reylo board and my Reylo art board, and if you look up Kelsey on Pinterest, my name is spelled Kelsey, and I actually for Pinterest hand at it. Oh, it's just Kelsey Hatch, Kelsey Hatch, HATCH on Pinterest if you want to look at those boards and the other Star Wars boards that I have collected, if any of you are Pinterest people.
Sweet. Kate?
I also have an Instagram, if you would like to see my illustrations and splatterings of things about my personal life. Oh, thank you. My illustrations are on Instagram under Stranger Kate, just all lowercase, all
Kate,
one word.
Kate?
Yes, K-A-T-E.
Yeah, this is Utah. We have to specify that it's not like Q-A-Y-T-E-E-I-G-H.
Well, it was Kate you can sometimes see with a C, just normally,
Yeah.
not even just Utah. But.
Yeah. I've also got a comic on Webtoons, which my brother has plugged before, Dreaming Beauty. If you look that up online, Webtoon, that's my comic. There's also a link to it from my Instagram, so if you just want to go to the Instagram, Stranger Kate, you can get to it from there. Oh, relevant to the episode, if you want a great Reylo playlist, I've got one on Spotify. Also under Stranger Kate. Real good stuff.
All right, listeners, thank you for listening. And as always, may the Force be with you.
Always.
I'm Anna Graves, and thank you for listening to a more civilized podcast.
I'm down to
Grabbing Chris's knee, and I feel a little awkward about it.
Okay.
please say that in the episode.
We need to dig a basement for Ross. We can make sense to it.
There's a crawl space.
Yeah, it's fun.
Excavation begins immediately.
Good luck with that.
You should redouble your efforts.
It's gonna be like, what's it? Harry Potter's covered under the stairs while it's crammed under there.
That's really what it would be, because there's a little door that's in the floor. Yeah,
I told them they needed to put a little British boy in there. But
We need a moment of silence for Chris's sad attempt to hook up the pop filter.
all right, then.
There it is. That was a good one. Okay. You ready?
As we're gonna be, I think.
Hey, welcome, dear listeners, to another episode. What?
I was breathing out. Start that one. Hey, you just chill, okay? I've done all this for you to get the stupid thing set up on time.
Okay.